Greetings and welcome to Bubble Hearthing. I'm Bubble and you're fantastic. Today, not only going to destroy continuity because I'm wearing a different outfit, because it's a new day for me, maybe not for you, maybe you're watching all of them in a marathon and having a great time, and I thank you. But we're also going to be going over all of the multicolored, colorless, and land cards at the end, even though they're colorless, I know, but just to clarify that we're going over lands as well. In Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, or as I like to call it, Kamigawa is not a bug, it's a feature. So, without further ado, let us get into the cards, because I want to crack some packs after this and play some games, and we gotta read these first. So, yes, we're going to be going over these cards first. There's a handful of cards, well, just a few. We'll see shortly, where although the casting cost is all one color, this is mono black card, the color identity is actually multiple colors. Ask your commander players about that, but there's other colored mana symbols on the card somewhere. So now we'll be going over these cards as a whole, including the colors that are not only included in the casting cost. Here we go. Beginning with Hirozugu. Mentioned before, 4-mana 4/4, cheap sack outlet to scry some cards. Okay, not bad, reasonable. But you can pay 2 and a red to unlock its other ability. Also tap it, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. When you exile a non-land card this way, Hirozugu Devouring Chaos deals damage equal to the exiled card's mana value to any target. So kind of a reverse Bob effect. If you don't know, Bob is the demonic tutor, not demonic tutor. I forget exactly what it's called. It'll come back to me in a little while, but anywho. It was a thing where you use that and it actually deals damage to you, but you draw extra cards. It's killing me here. But anyhow. Let me know what I'm referring to down in the comments below, because I forget exactly what its name is. And it's eating me up inside. Okay, this is why these reviews take so long. So, that ability is fantastic. Actually, if you just play it, you only need one other colored mana thing. If you're playing this in black and red, you're fine. You definitely are able to do that while I move my chair, because I realize I'm on top of a cord here. I paid good money for that wire. I'm not going to run over it multiple times, am I? Yeah, definitely I'm going to. Dark Confidant. There we go. See, I actually had to roll over the cord that was, siphoning my knowledge, and now my brain is extended to the universe and the heavens above. Whatever. Yeah, card's great though. Actually, card is very, very nice if you're playing this in a black and red deck, as you should, because if it's just playing this in a black deck, you're really not embracing the whole thing of the card. And I mean, and that makes sense. Yeah, sure, there's more to it, but the heart of this is I'm going to get a card advantage and deal some damage to you, and it's going to be fantastic. So, yeah, absolutely. In a black-red deck, or in draft, you can certainly take this and go black-red. You can even go 3 colors, because there's only one colored pip, like for either thing. Costs 3 and a black. The sacrifice costs black. The, blast ability costs red and 2. So not like any double-colored things there. Yeah, card's great. I would say probably like a 4 to 5 unlimited, if you go with that, if you are able to support the red. And in standard, baseline, it is a 4-mana 4/4. That doesn't do so much there, and then you, once per turn, can deal some damage to your opponent. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you get a land. Oh well, I guess I got the land out of the deck now, but do you want to have a whole bunch of more expensive cards to potentially, deal like 6 and 7 damage to your opponent, or do you want to keep things low to the ground just to, happen to deal 1 or 2, and then I can play the card almost, fairly reliably, without it just being exiled forever because it's too expensive and I can't cast it. That is yet to be determined. I'll say 3 out of 5 in standard. I think it's definitely going to see some play, maybe just as a one-of. I don't think it's going to be that many copies, especially because it's legendary. But in limited, oh yeah, go nuts. Go nuts. Kyodai Soul of Kamigawa. So on its own, it's a 4-mana 3/3 flash flyer. ETB and something else gains indestructible as long as you control Kyodai. But the reason it's in this review is because if you pay Wooburg, white, blue, black, red, and green, one of each, it gets +5/+5 until end of turn. How likely is that going to... Are you going to be able to activate that effect? Not very likely, especially not unlimited. I mean, people can, and if you do, then I might just concede to you on the spot, because not only will you probably kill me anyway, but, respect. Yeah, and also I'm probably dead, but respect, though. That's the heart of it. And of course, you can pay that multiple times if you happen to have all the colored mana you could ever ask for. But outside of that, I really don't think this card's great. I mean, how many rainbow things? Nimbus Reborn, sure, that's a thing. And that's a deck that I think still has some play in older formats, but really not too much. It's difficult to support Wooburg, to say the least. It's somewhat obvious there. Hello, Captain Obvious, yes, but it's not the easiest thing to have all 5 colors going for you. So for that reason, it really doesn't get much of an improvement over it being in just a mono white deck. I suppose it does only have, like I said with Hirozugu, the single white pip in the casting cost there at all, so it's not like it's cost double white and you're trying to fit into a 5-color deck and you might get stuck there. It's gonna be easy enough to cast if you have, like, you know, dual lands and such. So yeah, card's okay. I'm gonna give it roughly the same value that I gave it in the previous thing. What was that? I don't know. And limited is great. Limited is fantastic. Yeah, like a 3.5 or a 4. Standard, I'll give it like a 3, like a 2.5-ish 3. You know, yeah, something. Mostly because it costs 4 mana, and 4 mana is a lot. It just is. But yeah. Tamashi? I'm gonna say Tamashi. It sounds like a nice way to say things. Tameshi? No, Tamashi. Reality Architect is a 3-mana 2/3 legendary creature moonfolk wizard. The first thing is whenever one or more non-creature permanents are returned to the hand, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Okay, sure, that just happens all the time. But if you pay, of all things, X and a white, return a land you control to its owner's hand, then return target artifact or enchantment card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Not sure exactly what... I guess this is because the moon folks of old all usually had something like bounce a land as a cost. So this is, this is a moon folk, so it's kind of going back to those original effects that they had. And bouncing a land isn't the worst thing in the world. It does hurt your ability to pay X. You could tap the mana, tap it first, and then, put that towards that. But it hurts your ability to play this, use that ability multiple times. Because then you're going to take away from your land count unless you only do it once a turn. Which, okay, sure. But let's say you do it once, you do whatever, you put a whole bunch of mana into it, and what is the turn? Yeah, so it just actually reanimates. At the cost of returning a land to your hand, you reanimate an artifact or enchantment with a cost extra less. Card's good. Card's really nice. I do believe that blue-white artifacts, in particular blue-white with vehicles, will be a very good deck to play with. I don't know if it's going to be top tier, but I think it might be one of the better decks coming out of Neon Dynasty that uses, like, the newer cards. It's also possible that there's going to be like 1 or 2 new cards put into old decks or current decks, and then those are going to be the metagame. Happens more often than I like, but hey. So yeah, this thing with the added white to it is going to be pretty damn nice. I would say, like, in limited, it's going to be tricky because, how often are you going to have artifacts and things that are so impactful? It says enchantments, so you can actually add sagas. So if you have any sagas that turn to creatures that die, you can get them back, which is very nice there. Yeah, actually, card's legit. Card is, like, very, very good there. I'll put this at a good old 3.5, 4, as long as you have a few targets for it. Yeah, 3 mana 2/3 doesn't feel good. But bouncing things, this actually works for your lands, too. So when you use the ability to return a land, because it's a non-creature permanent, you draw a card. Card's great. Absolutely, I'll just give it a 4 out of 5. And we'll call it that. In limited and standard, I'll give it a 3.5. I like this card quite a bit. Tatsunari, the Toad Rider! Yes, gotta ride those toads! Alright. 3 mana 3/3. On its own, you play an enchantment. If you don't have the 3/3 bird... No, 3/3 bird. No bird. If you don't have the 3/3 frog, then you get a 3/3 frog. And that ability has, whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you drain 1 life. Cool. Where the multicolored thing comes in is if you pay 1 and the hybrid of either a green or a blue, then Tatsunari Toad Rider and target frog, I wonder who, I don't know, it could be anybody, you control, can't be blocked this turn except by creatures with flying or reach. So they kind of fly. I'm guessing, like, the idea is that the frog just leaps, although it should be a toad. Because it's literally Toad Rider. Either call it Tatsunari Frog Rider, which would be fine, or have it make a toad token. Would that be so much to ask for? I guess it is. I don't know, and the changelings are all toads now too. I wish. But anyway. Yeah, just a neat little thing. Makes it more aggressive, which is a strange thing to have in multicolors, of all things. I guess black, I'm thinking of Changeling Outcast in particular, has a few cards that are, evasive or just hard to block, and blue is known for having unblockable things, like, what is it, Phantom Warrior is a classic example, I believe, like the 3 mana 2/2 unblockable, just straight up. Plenty other unblockable things as well in blue. Green, not so much, but I guess that strikes, like, helps you extend to the fact that you have a toad that you're, you know, attacking with too. Yeah, card is actually very, very strong in limited if you have the ability to basically attack each turn for 6 while draining your opponent if you play any enchantments and keeping the... if for whatever reason they block the frog, then while keeping the frog alive. It does encourage you to attack with both, but you can just attack with the one. Even though they both get unblockable, you can still just attack with the frog token, and, you know, that's awesome. And force your opponent to use a kill spell on it, or block with flyers, which could be pestering you. Yeah, card actually is great. And the fact that it's the hybrid mana means you don't have to play it in 3 colors. You can play it in black and blue, or black and green. Hey, awesome stuff there. This is definitely, if you include that last bit too to make it super aggressive, like 4.5, actually 5 out of 5 in limited. Just go ahead, take this card. I hope I get this card in the draft that I'm going to play later, or a sealed thing. I just look at this guy, he's so good, and the tongue's all like, nah, and then you're like, oh, I'm dead. And standard, this, let's see here. Do we like this card? We do like this card. Is it as good as it is? You know, no, not as good, but still pretty good. There are more aggressive decks that can do more impressive things for 3, so you have to make up for that value. The downside of playing a 3-mana 3/3, oh no, woe is me. But you have to make up for that by playing an enchantment of the next turn to spawn your frog, and then it doesn't have haste, I don't think, no, so you gotta, it's a little obnoxious. But I believe, like 3, I'll say 3.5, mostly, I was gonna say 3, but I'll give it the extra 0.5 because it has that drain ability, which can help keep you alive while you get your frog on the board, and then the next turn when it can actually start dealing damage. And now we're into the actual multicolored cards. I know, thank you for bearing with me for those previous ones. I'm sorry if I kept you waiting in the previous reviews. Like, no, look at the whole card, you're ignoring the whole part of the thing. Yes and no, but yeah. Alright, Osari Captain is a 5-mana, red and white card. How I really want to say this. Costs 3 red and a white. There we go. For a 4/3 human samurai with haste. Whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, it gets +1/+0 until the turn for each samurai or warrior you control. So you know how I was referring to all these things as well? It's kind of exalted, but not really. This is basically giving all of them exalted, which is nice. It helps a lot. This is going to be basically a must-have if you're trying to get this whole samurai warrior, one creature attacks, you know, with the might of the army behind them, sort of thing going on. And I hate it. I just don't like it at all. It's a sneaky little haste thingy, because you play it, let's see, for each samurai. So it, on its own, you play it for 5 mana, it has haste, you swing in, and it's a 4/3, and a 5/3, sorry, if it's attacking on its own. If it's attacking with more things, then it's a 4/3 still, and that's just what it is. And you're missing the whole point of your deck. Jeez. I just don't like these cards so much. So let's take a look at it as though, like, from both ways. 5-mana 4/3 haste. Would we like that? It's boring. It's not great, but it's okay. The casting cost, of course, is a little difficult because it's more than one color, but hey, that's why we're here. So with that in mind, I will say that in limited, it's going to be like a 3 out of 5. If you manage to make it a 5/3, because, I don't know, whatever trades, and then top deck, haha, swing, that's pretty good. And if you manage to somehow get that synergy, it's still pretty good, but why are you doing that? Then I'll give you like a 3.5 if you have a whole bunch of samurais or warriors and you are dead set on making that happen. In standard, I'm going to give it a 0. No, I hate this mechanic that they're doing here. I understand, like, the lore behind it, but I don't like the actual implementation of it. Colossal Sky Turtle. Oh, look at this guy. So nice, they channeled it twice. Is a 7 mana, costs double green and a blue. 6/5 enchantment creature turtle with flying and ward 2. And the first of the 2 channel abilities are you can pay 2 and a green and discard it. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Very green thing to do, you know, to just bring a card back from your graveyard. I want to use it again. And the other one is pay 1 and a blue and discard. Return target creature to its owner's hand. So you either get a card from your graveyard, cool, or you bounce something for a little bit cheaper and you bounce something. Yeah, card all around, like it kind of almost really captures what it means to be blue and green, I think is really cool. And also I love that it's a flying turtle. That's kind of neat there. Huge creature, of course, and limited. I wouldn't mind taking this, one of them, only if it's in your colors. I wouldn't say this is a boss monster to, you know, contend with and to really build your deck around. I'd say if it's already blue and green, then by all means play it. If it was like maybe a little blue, okay, you could probably get there, especially by the time you get to 7 mana. Hopefully you would have gotten your I don't know, 2 or 3 of Island, maybe, who knows. And if not, you can use one of the channel abilities. Of course, you would like to have your blue earlier, so you have access to both. But yeah, Unlimited, if it wasn't for those channel things, I would say this card's really big and really kind of slow, and hopefully you get there, and it'd be like a 2. 2.5, just because the big creatures are just more valuable. But because of the channels, I will say it bumps it up to like a 3.5. I mean, bouncing creatures is no joke. And getting back any card, yeah, it doesn't even have to be a permanent. It can be a kill spell. So, yeah, awesome thing there. Standard, no, it's not big enough to... It costs a lot and doesn't do enough, really. So, unfortunately, in Standard, no dice. Higanjo Uprising. Costs X, red, and white. For a sorcery. Oh, this one's weird. And it's a rare just because it does a lot of things, I guess. Create X 2/2 white samurai creature tokens with vigilance. They gain menace and haste until end of turn. Sounds pretty good. Sounds like, hey, guess what? I can just dump everything into X and I get all these 2/2s with menace makes them hard to block, and haste means I can swing at you right away and they all have vigilance, so they don't even have to tap. Yeah, swing out Alpha Strike. Cool. I love this card. Each opponent. So if you're playing with more than one opponent, you know, maybe don't. Maybe pass on this card, but each opponent creates X -1 2/2 white samurai creature tokens with vigilance. So, the difference, the thing that breaks the parallel nature that, you know, that could be this card, is that they make X -1, so you always have one more samurai token from this. Not too relevant. I guess if you have to eke out that small amount of damage, then yes, cool, you get a 2/2 through. But theirs also don't have menace, I suppose, and haste isn't really too relevant on... It could be if somehow something's giving everything an ability, but they can't tap the turn, whatever. They don't have menace and haste. While yours do for the turn. So the only real use of this card is to play them, attack with all of them, hopefully you can, otherwise you're in a really nasty state. And then since all of yours have menace, not only do you have one more than your opponents, but it's going to take 2 of their creatures to block 1 of yours. They block decently, they only lose 1 creature in that trade if it's just tokens on tokens, but still, it means that roughly half your creatures go through. If on an empty board, right? So... And then you still have... They have vigilance, so you still have blockers for all your opponent's things. And they trade. It's not bad, but giving your opponent... Wanting to put as much into X as you can, and also giving your opponent more creatures for that, and they only get 1 less than you. I would rather they just said, like, make X things for you and make 1/2 X for your opponent. Okay, maybe we would get there. You're giving your opponent an army, likely, or you're doing something silly, I don't know. And limited, this card could be fine. Could be alright, and, you know, not too bad. But... I would hesitate giving your opponent that many resources, especially in the form of creatures. So, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and say that I don't really like this card so much at all. I will put it at like a 2.5 out of 5 unlimited. It probably should be a 3. I'll give it a 3, actually. Just because even though you're giving your opponent a bunch of things, you could probably win the turn you play it if you play it with, like, you know, enough mana. If you're putting in like 5 or 6 into X, then yeah, okay, swing in there. Roughly half your stuff gets through, but they deal 2 damage anyway, so you're probably dealing around, you know, 6 or 7 damage. Is that how that works? Yeah, and that's not bad, and then you could probably even block them after that. In Standard, this is a very silly card that makes a lot of tokens, and I think that there's going to be plenty of games where you make infinite mana, even though you're not running green. I guess maybe this is going to be in a Naya deck that has green, just to have some infinite mana combo, and then you spit out a bunch, and you're like, well, I don't care, because I'm attacking with a bunch of menace things. Maybe there's going to be something where whenever a creature enters the battlefield this turn, it gets blur, and then like, well, I'm having 20 creatures enter the battlefield, and some on your side, you know. There are going to be some shenanigans. In shenanigan decks, this is probably going to be a very key card. Outside of shenaniganizing, I believe this is going to be a 2 out of 5 in Standard. Yeah. In shenanigans, though, it's going to be like the top card. I'm walking a very thin line here because I believe there's a card actually called Shenanigans, which I don't know if it applies to this thing at all. I have no idea what the card does. I just know that I believe it exists. Alright. Enthusiastic Mechanaut. Is it my favorite color pair? So, not triplet or wedge, just pair. Is Esper a wedge? Or is Esper like a thing? Is it like a slice or... I don't know. I should look at the back of the card to see. Esper's a wedge. Oh, goodness me. Thank you. Okay. Or is it a shard? I don't know. 3 colors that are next to each other. So, and for anyone wondering, the card looked at was Plains, basic Plains from the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Definitely didn't just read that off of the box. So, 2-mana 2/2 artifact creature Goblin Artificer with flying. And artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Super decent card. Nothing wrong with this at all. Every now and then, like, there's Goblin and Electromancer, which makes your things cost 1 less, like instant sorceries, which is much more impactful. But this is good. Baseline 2-mana 2/2 flyer. Cool. It's an artifact. That's pretty cool, and it makes your vehicles cheaper and other things cheaper, equipment things. I mean, yeah. There are plenty of artifact creatures and artifact creature, equipment creature, whatever things, and it's just going to make them cheaper as well. Yeah, good card. I have nothing really to complain about here. So with that in mind, like 3 out of 5, only because it's not a huge body, but like, yeah, maybe even 3.5 if you manage to just get through and have a high enough number of artifacts to really make use of that discount. In standard, these things usually only see some play in like broken combo things that really help, like, now that all my stuff costs less, I'm going to play everything, and then there goes the whole deck, and I win the game. But with artifacts in mind, I'm going to give it a 2, which is something. I think it'll see a little bit of play in some standard decks. I don't think it's a 4 of at all, especially because, like, even though it is an artifact, it doesn't reduce its own cost because there's no generic mana in the casting cost. But I think it's a nice little guy. Also, he's very, very easy to remove. Like, 2 health is not a problem to shoot out of the sky. So, yeah. But yeah, 2 out of 5 in standard and like 3 out of 5 limited. Gloom Shrieker. This thing is 3 mana with black and green. Elemental creature cat beast. And it's a 2/1 with menace. And look at that artwork. Honestly, it's like some kind of nightmare tiger I'm getting here, but I guess it almost looks like there are spirits in the picture, but I guess this is not a spirit itself. But it's something. Alright, when Gloom Shrieker enters the battlefield, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If this would die, exile it instead, so you can't just go infinite Gloom Shriekers because one died, you get the other one, and one died, they get the other one back. That'd be a little annoying, to say the least, in limited. Now then, let's see. It does say return target permanent card, which is a very green, in particular, it's a very green-black thing, actually. I am drawn back to, was it Find Finality? Yeah, oh, those were the days. Ixalan, right? Yeah, or something. At least it was in that when Ixalan was legal. But anyway, this card is decent. I mean, 3 mana, 2/1 menace, that's not a whole lot. Though having only 1 health does hurt it a lot, because there's a few things that deal 1 damage, 1 or 2 damage, and this is going to be a very easy target. But at least you get something back when you play it. What are you going to get back? Hopefully not just a land, hopefully something more than that. Maybe that enchantment that's also a kill spell. Maybe some other enchantment that's just pretty good. Maybe a vehicle that died in combat, but you still had the creatures to crew it, and now you get the vehicle back. Some I don't know, some stuff. Card's okay. But I would actually just give it a 2.5 out of 5 and limited. And in standard, I don't think it's going to see any play. Greasefang Okiva Boss. Things are starting to speed up now. You see? Because it's a motorcycle. For 3 mana, 1 a white and a green, you get a legendary creature rat pilot that is a 4/3. 3 mana 4/3. Okay, I like that. At the beginning of combat on your turn, return target vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of your next end step. So, a few things to really look out for here. I'm not sure why it would be turn it from your graveyard to the battlefield, but then put it back in its owner's hand. I guess if somehow it's there and then it switches places, like if your opponent instant speed active treasons it, then you still get it back at the end. They don't get to keep it. I don't know. If it's at a graveyard, then I get it. You can get your opponent's thing back for a turn. But anyway, I digress there. Card's insane. Card is actually just fantastic. 3 mana 4/3. Cool. Good card. Beats the vanilla test. I like it. Then it happens. Immediately affects the board. At the beginning of combat. Pick a vehicle card in your graveyard. It's on the battlefield. On the battlefield. Not even, something I would expect it to say you can cast the card this turn. No, it's on the board. Okay? And if you have other creatures, or maybe even just this thing on the board and it's big enough, yeah, you can crew it right away because it gains haste. Nice. And then the downside is that, okay, you had it there for a turn, but it's got to go back to your hand, then you got to replay it afterwards if you want to play it again, but Guy, listen, it just keeps pulling things out. At the very least, it gives you card advantage. And starts filling your hand with things that were in the graveyard. This card's insane. Easy, like 4 to 5 unlimited. Of course, without vehicles, it is a 3-mana 4/3, which is good, but not great. In standard, this card is probably also going to be like a 3.5-ish, 4 out of 5 kind of card. The only reason I'm going to hold it back at 3.5 is because I believe, like I said before, that the colors for vehicles, where the vehicles are going to shine, is going to be blue and white. Now, don't get me wrong, please. I love Esper. I wish I had a little buddy here with me, because I got the little channel mascot. That is my little spider friend that is named Esper, because it is Esper colors. And, well, blue and white, add some black, and you can play this guy and just get them all back in the graveyard. But that might be tough. I don't know if it's actually going to make the cut, even though it's a great card. We'll see. We'll see. But, yeah, that's why it's going to be 3.5 and not quite the whole 4. But, yeah, card's great. And yet, I do not give it my award for best in the thing there. Yeah, that's right. We do have an award, in case you didn't notice in the previous 5. A little trophy will pop up when I think it's the best one in that grouping. And because this card is, not this card, but this review is broken up to 3, you know, the multicolored, the colorless, and then the lands, and then there will be 3 awards given out in this video. Stay tuned. Hirozugu consumes all, costs 1 a black and a red for a saga. Mythic saga, dang. Chapter 1, destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. Not getting a whole lot of less than standard, but sure, in older formats, that's relevant. All your Moxen are destroyed now. Oh my goodness, no, my thousands of dollars. Chapter 2, exile all graveyards. Relevant. Okay. Chapter 3, you flip it over and you acquire the Vessel of the All-Consuming. It's a 3/3 with trample. Also becomes an enchantment creature or shaman, which is basically Hirozugu, right? Alright, with trample, whenever Vessel of the All-Consuming deals damage, put a +1/+1 counter on it, which it probably will because it has trample. At least it has that going for it. And whenever this deals damage to a player, if it has dealt 10 or more damage to that player this turn, they lose the game. I don't know exactly how you're going to make that happen without them already losing in combat, because baseline is a 3/3. You're going to have to buff it quite a bit, or you're going to have to attack multiple times. Your opponent's going to have a lot of health. I don't know why they would have that much health, but they would have to. And if somehow you manage to get this to deal 10 or more, which means either you attacked with it, let's see, 7 times, and got through, and that's 21 damage, no, actually, it's more than 21 damage, because it's 3 + 4 + 5 + 6 + 7, which is, was it 10? No, not the 7th time, though, because we're going to ignore that. We're going to say it gets to 6. So 3 + 4, 7 + 5 is 12, + 6 is 18. So either your opponent survived that many turns of this thing dealing 18 total damage, give or take, plus other creatures on the board, and then you finally swing in for the 10, for the 10 ball, and they're like, damn, I can't block this at all, I guess you got me now. Ignoring that last part, because I think it's just flavorful to reference Hirozugu's second right and whatnot, which we went over in the, was it in the black card review? It was actually in the red card review, because I think there was a card that was a little more referential to that. But overall, when you look at this thing, 3 mana, helps you stabilize a bit. Interestingly, in black and red, and I think that's a deck that would largely like to play a lot of 1-drops and like be more aggressive, but you're kind of punished for it here, which I don't care for. But maybe it's going to be a slower black and red thing. Maybe you're going to be Grixis and you're going to slow things down. This could definitely see playing a sideboard. In limited, I don't like the first or even second chapter too much. There is some graveyard recursion, could be relevant, but the first one isn't really going to hit too many things, at least not too many relevant things. I guess any tokens have to die, that's something. But when you flip it over, 3/3 with trample that your opponent has to deal with, otherwise it will continue to grow, is nice. Of course, you get that on turn 5 if you play this on curve, which is less than ideal. So even though it does a few pretty flashy things, I don't think it does them at the time when you want them to. So with that, I will say this is a 3 out of 5 unlimited. It's pretty good. And standard, I'm going to give it a 1.5 and say it's probably going to see some play in the sideboard as like a 1 or 2 of, but there's better ways to clear the board. And exile things, I think, might not be super important, so yeah. And this is just bonus stuff, which is nice. Just a little added advantage. But yeah, 1.5-ish, and this is like a 2.53 in limited. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say specifically because of the way I just said it now. I was like, that could be confusing. No, it's going to be 2.53. That's right there, just above 2.53. The first ever, and hopefully the last. Hinata Dawn Crowned. Costs 1, oh boy, costs 3 colors. 1 generic mana, as well as a blue, a red, and a white. That's right, we are going Jeskai here. For a legendary creature Kieran Spirit that is a 4/4 with Flample. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each target, and spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast for each target. Each target is, I guess, if you have removal. If your opponent has removal, then, hey, this costs more. It kind of protects itself a little bit in that way, which I like. If you have removal, it's cheaper because you're targeting your opponent's things. Someone mentioned Magma Opus has quite a few targets, so that would go down from costing 8 to costing, like, almost nothing. I don't exactly know. I think you target 2 things. Oh, actually, no, you can split up the damage, like, however you want, can't you? Amongst, like, 4 things? You know what? Magma Opus would cost almost nothing, and if you get the 2 together, and of course it's going to be in similar colors, then congratulations, I think you win the game. Also, the fact that you can discard, you can pay the cost to discard Magma Opus to make treasure tokens, which can help pay for a 3-color card, is pretty nice. And also, it's just an aggressive card. This is not Mantis Rider, worth noting there. It costs 1 more, and it doesn't have haste, but it's still a damn good thing. And let's see, the cost for each, 1 more to cast for each target there. I don't think it's going to be too often your opponent's going to have multiple things they're targeting. But I mean, hey, it doesn't hurt to do that. It's funny how all the cards that are better for you are just extremely bad for your opponent. Like, yeah, Magma Opus for me, it costs like nothing. For them, oh my god, this is unplayable now. Casualties of War, how you doing, bud? But, I mean, it doesn't help that much because the mana cost, there were a lot of colored pips there, so it wouldn't reduce it too much anyway. Yeah, the card is good, but in limited, good luck playing a 3-color card. Just, honestly, seriously, I wish you the best of luck there. I don't know that it's very feasible, but if you can, then congrats. If not, you might even just want to take this because, hey, rare drafted, have a good time. But I wouldn't be too upset if this is like pack 3 and suddenly, you're playing like a black and blue, you're doing Demir or Control Ninjas or whatever you're doing. It's like, oh no, well, this is 2 colors that I'm not playing, but this card's the rare, do I just take it? You can pass it, it's okay. It's gonna be okay, unless the card's like worth 20, 30 bucks, then like, just grab it and you get a free draft. Alright. So let's see there. In limited, if you manage to get this thing and put it into a deck that can support the colors and have a great time, it's cool. It's cool. It's actually very, very nice. So a 3.5 out of 5 in limited, only because it's still going to be difficult to cast, I believe. In standard, card will still be hard to cast, but not nearly as difficult. You can probably reliably get this down on turn 4 or 5 in many games that you have this in your hand. So with that, yeah, sure, I'll give it a 2.5, maybe even a 3. It kind of has ward in its own way, and it gives all your creatures wards. It reminds me of like Kira, the Great Glass Spinner, in that sense. Cool, I like it. Invigorating Hot Spring, that's interesting. So for 1, a red and a green, you get an enchantment. Enchantment just sticks there, it's on the board now. Cool, enchant the plane. Invigorating Hot Spring enters the battlefield with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. It's not a creature, don't worry. Modified creatures you control have haste. And I don't believe we've gone over modified creatures, but we went over it in the past few videos, so I'm going to just go ahead and say you probably know what they are. If not, you can read the little tiny words there, or you can look at the other video that I hope to be posting soon that will go over the specific mechanics that are going on in this set. You can remove a +1/+1 counter from Invigorating Hot Spring to put a counter, +1/+1 counter, on target creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery and only once each turn. I like this card. It's kind of simple. I like that it's Gruul, and it kind of does a very Gruul thing where you put a creature on the board, you can move a counter over to it, and it's going to give it haste as kind of a coincidental kind of thing. Also, it helps on the other things that you have that are going to be modified anyway. Play something, maybe have a little equipment that is not the rabbit, because that already gives things haste, but maybe you have the twin lizard blades that get double strike, and then you equip it. Now that creature is modified, so it has double strike and haste because of this. And if you can move a counter over to it, then that does twice the duty because it is double strike, and that's how double strike does. Yeah, this card is quite nice. Would you play a 3-mana thing that said all your creatures have haste? I think I would. I think I would there. And you can buff them here and there? I definitely would. In Limited, this card's great. Just each one's a turn. Okay, I'm going to buff this, and I'm going to buff this, and I'm going to buff this. Could be the same card each time, could be different ones. Nothing wrong with this card at all. Only 2 colors there, so I'm going to say 3.5 out of 5. I don't know how strong green is going to be in the Limited format, but I believe that red's pretty damn good, and you could probably get away with throwing this in there. In Standard, do we see a whole lot from that Ravnica one that did the same thing, give all your creatures riot? I think it was like called City Uprising or something, or Mass Upheaval. I forget exactly what it was called, but it was a very similar effect, and actually very, very similar effect. And that saw a medium amount of play. It was decent, and you could like play multiples and then just make your creatures stronger and swing in, and yeah, that was not a bad card at all. With Ravnica Allegiance, I believe it was where it came out. So with that, yeah, Standard, although Gruul's not in the... Actually, Gruul's in a fine place with like werewolves and stuff. Yeah, this could see some play there too, because why wouldn't it? So 2.5 out of 5 in Standard, and like a 3.5 in Limited. Ishin, 2 heavens as 1. Costs, specifically red, white, and black. That is Abzan. No. That is Mardu. My mistake. This is Mardu. Okay. So, for that very specific cost, you get a legendary creature human samurai that is a 3/4. If a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. And the whole synergy with this thing is that, well, it's a human samurai, so all those things that say when a warrior or samurai attacks alone, you do this, now they all trigger twice. Which could be good. Of course, there's multiple other things where this also impacts the board. I don't know what all the effects are. There's probably quite a few that are more numerous than I would really know right away. This probably fits into many people's commander decks, and they're rejoicing as I speak. But as it is in Limited, this is going to be very difficult to actually get on the board. Very specific cost there. If you do 3-mana 3/4 somehow on turn 3 or 4, you're okay. Doesn't have any abilities that it works with on its own. It doesn't fuel itself, it just has this and buffs other things, so you need that synergy, otherwise it's a difficult to cost 3/4, which isn't really where you want to be. I would rather pay a 3-mana 3/3 that just costs, like, you know, that has a single color in the thing versus difficult to cast. So with that, and with me not thinking the whole samurai thing is great and not really worth it, I'm gonna say this is probably like a 2 out of 5, as much as it pains me. Ugh. Now I got hair on my tongue. Obnoxious, but anyway. So with that, yeah. It has very nice utility. I think the times that it shines is really going to be fantastic for the turn that you do it. But it's going to not be a very good card many more times than that. And in Standard, where you can probably get this on the board, you know, in a reasonable amount of time, it's cool. I like it. I think that... Oh, this one Winota back in Ikoria. Oh boy, that's a combo. That's a combo right there. Maybe historic shenanigans there. Historic nonsense. Is Winota legal in historic, or is she banned? I don't recall, because I think there was something going on with her, and maybe she's not allowed. But I want to see this and Winota on the board at the same time and just going nuts. Also, it's a human, which I think is relevant. Maybe, maybe not. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. Outside of that deck, I'm going to put this at like a 1 out of 5 in Standard and a 2 out of 5 in Limited. Jukai Naturalist. Costs a green and a white for a 2/2 enchantment creature human monk. With lifelink and enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. This, I believe, is secretly, not secretly, but kind of maybe underrated, like low-key, a very strong card. Because, okay, 2 mana 2/2 lifelink. 2 colors are much easier to support than 3 colors, so I'll say this can likely come down turn 2. Lifelink is nice. Enchantment creature can help with some things, but also, this is an enchantment creature. There are other creatures that just happen to be enchantments in the set. Also, there's a bunch of sagas in the set, and there's auras in the set. all of them get reduced by 1. Hopefully you have some sagas in your deck, because they're not too bad. Yeah, and they just makes it cheaper, which means that your sagas manage to turn into creatures 1 turn ahead of time, because you can, pay less for them, and you get to be more aggressive and just get all your effects going off. This card is going to be an absolute must-have in a limited and maybe even constructed, like, sagas deck, if that becomes a thing. So, in limited, this is a fantastic card. I'm going to say it's like a 3.5 out of 5. Maybe even a 4 out of 5. If you just have, a decent number, I'm going to say probably like 6 or 7 sagas, and you drop 1 or 2 of these guys, yeah, cool, you're good to go. In Standard, this will likely be a turn 2 play into a turn 3, 4-mana saga. If that deck works. It might not work, but I'm thirsty, so I'm going to give this, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and say 3 out of 5 in Standard. Yep, I went there. Moving on. Kaito Suzuki, one of the first cards that was actually revealed, and dang is this hard to read. I apologize, but we're gonna work through it because I believe this card is actually the best from the multicolored cards. This card is fantastic. I know it is, like, actually gonna be on some of the packs, probably. It's like the poster child. Like I said, it was like one of the first things revealed. But it's a damn good card, alright? I can't deny that it has very, very good utility and is very powerful just because it was hyped. I think the hype is there for a reason. So, it is a 3 mana, costs 1 blue and a black, for a legendary planeswalker Kaito. That begins with 3 loyalty, and at the beginning of your end step, if Kaito Suzuki enter the battlefield this turn, he phases out. It's nice that he just has to enter the battlefield, it doesn't have to be cast this turn, so if you reanimate it somehow or whatever, then he still triggers that. Just a nice little thing there. Nice little quality of life thing, I suppose. Alright, so, +1 ability. +1 loyalty, draw a card, then discard a card unless you attacked this turn. This is going to be interesting to determine, do you want to play this before combat and use that and see if you can try to change the way combat goes, or, try to maybe wipe the board, or do you want to attack first, don't have to connect with it, thank goodness, you don't have to actually deal damage, just have to have an attacker declared, and then not have to discard the card. Sometimes discarding is okay. I say it quite a bit, but I like Reanimator. And we're getting towards that at the bottom, actually. -2 is make a 1/1 blue ninja creature token with this creature can't be blocked. Hey, you know what? That's pretty good. It's not great. It's also, the creature can block. It is just unblockable on its own, which is important, I'd say. Okay, not the strongest -2 in the world. Ninja, it's kind of a relevant creature type, not too much though. More so relevant when it's in your hand, not when it's a token that's on the board. But hey, it can block. And if you need to get that points of damage in there, you can just start... It's not boggles, because boggles are just things with hexproof that you buff up a lot and your opponent has a hard time removing them. But if you just start equipping this unblockable creature with all of your stuff, if you have, auras and equipments, then guess what? You might win the game that way. And the ultimate ability, which it certainly is, -7, you get an emblem, of course, as all ultimates do, really. With whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a blue or black creature card, put it into the battlefield, and then shuffle, your library, shuffle your deck. So, yeah. You search your library, it doesn't search your graveyard, right? Okay, no. But still, you'd pick the biggest and baddest blue or black, sorry, not blue or green, creature from your deck, and just slap it on there. Hey, I punched you, and that was like, I don't know, I alerted the people, and now here's a big old... I guess you could still play... Do people still play, the serpent, the feed the serpent thingy that I keep wanting to say Clothis, but it's definitely not Clothis. Coma. Do people still play Coma? I don't think so. Would they play it with this? Maybe? Maybe not. I don't know. But the +1 helps you get those, helps you just get through a few cards and ditch things if you really want to. If you're playing Reanimator, which you might. And if you're not, that's okay. I think this card's fantastic. I think this is just a great card all around. The ultimate threatens to win the game, and do so fairly quickly. And the card itself usually survives. Like, you play this on turn 3, you plus it, because why don't you plus it? I don't know. It goes up to 4 loyalty, phases out, comes back in, you plus it up to 5, or you minus it, minus down to like 2 or something. It's just super solid. If it wasn't for that phasing, it'd be meh. But the fact that it just built in protects itself for a turn. Great card, honestly. Fantastic. Alright, moving onwards. Oh god, all the words. Oh, okay. We go on to the book. That is Kotose, the Silent Spider. I love spiders. Why didn't I bring Esper over here? He was in the living room. Oh my goodness. Ugh. I apologize. That's a mistake on my part. 5 mana. In Dimir. It's a 4/4 legendary creature, human ninja. When this card, because I'm going to try to cut back on as many words as I can, enters the battlefield, exile target card other than a basic land from an opponent's graveyard. Okay, so going to opponent's graveyard, you're saying that card, that one right there, the Kaito Suzuki that I killed. All right, sure. I'm targeting that one. Search that player's graveyard, hand, and library for as many for any number of cards, as many of cards, what? Any number of cards with the same name as that card and exile them. Then that player shuffles. For as long as you control this card, you may play one of those exiled cards, and you may spend mana as though or mana of any color to cast it. I don't know how many Relentless Rats decks are really going around, but this, I guess, would more or less single-handedly, knock them out if you got to 5 mana. But this really just reminds me, it's not Unmortigo, because the card has to be in your opponent's graveyard to actually target to remove, so it's more so like a surgical extraction, but it costs 5. The reason why surgical is so damn good at what it does is it effectively costs 0. It's the single black Phyrexian mana, so you just splash it into whatever deck needs it, you just put it into basically any sideboard, unless you're trying to combo off or something. Usually, kind of more control decks play it, but still. And it's based on the metagame, really. And then you just play it, and you pay 2 life. You don't have to play black. This is a similar effect. I guess it's trying to make use of it, like, oh, but you can play one of the cards if you want to. Okay, cool. Am I going to exile the card that I want to play, but isn't really going to be very impactful for my opponent not to have? Or I'm going to exile the card that my opponent needs to win, but does nothing for me. It does... let's see. It is nice that it did not include that hand protection sort of thing, where previous versions of this effect have, if you take cards out of your opponent's hand, they draw cards equal to like however many you remove. This just yanks them out of their hand and they're gone. So that's kind of cool. But 5 mana to do that. I'm just going to evaluate this on a 5 mana 4/4. Honestly, I don't believe this is great. In limited, you get information as to what else is in your opponent's deck. You're probably not going to hit a damn thing, but at least you get to know, okay, they have 2 more big creatures I got to worry about, and one sweeper, and then 2 more just general removals. So I got to watch out for that and not commit too much to the board until they play this thing. Like you get to just know what it is. Outside of that utility, this is a 5 mana 4/4. Hate to tell you, but it is. So I guess if you kill a big creature, you can exile it and then play it later. And I don't like it. I just don't like it. Do you want to think of it as like a 3 mana 4/4 draw a card? Maybe. I'll give it a 2.5 out of 5 for that. In limited. In standard, no. No. It's way too expensive. Unless there's a certain deck that needs to have all 4 copies of whatever. I don't like this card at all. Naomi, Pillar of Order. Costs 3, a white and a black. For a legendary creature, Human Advisor. That is a 4/4. That is certainly not the Silver Quill person from Strixhaven that made their way over here. Whenever Naomi, Pillar of Order, enters the battlefield or attacks, if you control an artifact and an enchantment, create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with vigilance. So this is interesting because it's kind of combining the whole samurai creatures doing their thing with, just samurai support, I guess, with the whole having an artifact and enchantment. Most of the time, I don't know if you're exactly going to have both of them there, so you're probably just going to have a 5 mana 4/4 that exists. That's kind of boring, so that's not so great. The cases where you do have it and you play this, then you get a 2/2 alongside it. Okay, we've seen kind of cards like that before where, they cost more and they break up the block of stats. Like this could be a 5 mana 6/6, but instead it's a 5 mana 4/4 that makes it 2/2 as well. Okay, unless you're going to recur this repeatedly and flicker it and bounce it and whatnot, then that's really not, it's not terrible. It, kind of pads it from spot removal, but not the biggest fan. So with that, this is I'm just going to give this a 2 out of 5 still. I think it's going to be very difficult to get the artifact and enchantment and then start swinging with it and generate more 2/2s for value. I don't know. Sure, I might lose a game or two to this thing because I have nothing and my opponent just starts spitting out 2/2s every turn, and I have no way to remove this, but hey, it's not Monastery Mentor is what I'm trying to say. In Standard, it costs too much for what it is. If it cost 4, I could think like maybe it's decent play. If it costs 3 and put out 1/1 spirit tokens instead, okay. If it costs 2, then it would be Hero Precinct 1, which had a few like tier 1.5 decks behind it. And that was an interesting time. So yeah, but it's not that. It costs 5, so 0 out of 5. Oni Cult Anvil. I do have a confession to make. I looked at someone else's like reviews of cards that they thought were over and underhyped, and they believed that this card was fantastic. I believe this card is pretty good. It did give me a different view of how this thing works. Let us get into it now. This is an artifact that costs black and red, just 1 of each, 2 total. 2 total mana. Whenever 1 or more artifacts you control leave the battlefield during your turn. No. Create a 1/1 colorless construct artifact creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn, so they don't just keep dying. You can't just continually sack the artifacts and make more artifacts and you have infinite artifacts. You can tap this and sacrifice an artifact. Oni Cult Anvil deals 1 damage to each opponent. You gain 1 life. So, this, to me, because you sack an artifact, you make an artifact token, which you can then sack at a later turn or sack to a different Oni Cult Anvil if you have multiples. This is very reminiscent to me of, unfortunately, the Cat Oven. Not nearly as strong, don't get me wrong. Cat Oven was a mess back in Throne of Eldraine. You had the Cauldron Familiar and the Witch's Oven, and you can continually block and then, sacrifice the cat to the oven and then bring it back, and every time it enters the battlefield, you drained 1 life. This drains 1 life. The similarity here is that you play this, and maybe you have, artifact creature or not, but eventually you'll probably get that construct. You block with a construct. You tap this to sack the construct. It blocks the damage. You deal 1 damage to your opponent, gain 1 life, and you make a construct again. Very reminiscent. Yes, very. I see the similarities are there, are present. So, card's good. I don't think it outclasses Kaito. That's why it's not getting the award here. But this is a not too far away second, which is another way to say close second. I think in Limited, card is not to be underestimated because it can give you like a chump blocker every turn while gaining you a little bit of life and either putting your opponent on the clock or just giving you some more time to try to get ahead. So with that, like actually 3.5 or 4 out of 5 if you have enough artifacts. This card is no joke. This card will often demand an answer or just overwhelming power to get around. Otherwise, good luck. In Standard, if you got 4 of these things and they all hit each other or whatever, I mean, it only triggers once each turn, so you still just, get 4 tokens total for the turn. But, you do that, you block 4 things, you gain 4 life, and all the good things are happening in the ideal scenario. Yeah, you know what? That's not bad. And it's it does hurt if you get a board wipe because then you don't have anything to sacrifice, but you can sacrifice another anvil and kind of keep your things going. Worst case, right? Yeah, okay. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it now. I'll give it a 3. 3 out of 5 in Standard and a 4 out of 5 in Limited. Yeah, that feels right. Prodigy's Prototype is a 3 mana, costs 1 a white and a blue. For an artifact vehicle that is 3/4. Whenever 1 or more vehicles you control attack, create a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token. With this creature crews vehicles as though its power were 2 greater, and the crew cost is only 2. So even though the 1/1 pilot can crew things that can contribute 3 to the crew cost of something on its own, before any other buffs are considered, this only costs 2. It's pretty cheap. Only costs 3 here, 2, 3, 4. It's nice, and let's see. Right, okay, guys, before I just keep reading the damn card to you, so my apologies. The value behind this is that you attack and you make things that can crew your vehicles that aren't super impactful aside from crewing. Therefore, you can use your more valuable creatures to actually attack, or maybe if they have any abilities, you can tap and activate them or whatever, what have you. And also, you make these pilots, so while you do have to attack already, once you continue to trigger this thing, they can block, so you can be a little more aggressive that way too. Card's good. Card's good. Card's like a 3 out of 5 in Limited, maybe even a little more, 3.5. They are in, this is the blue and white card, one of the blue and white cards that I believe is going to be very strong in Azorius artifacts. In Standard, yes, this is one of the cards I believe is going to be very strong. I'm going to say 3 out of 5 in both formats. This might even be like a, I don't know if it's going to be like a 2 of, or maybe like a 3 or 4 of in those decks if they are good, but it's definitely going to see like play in that deck, absolutely. Ryu, Storm's Edge. Costs 2, a red and a white, for a legendary creature human samurai 3/3 with first strike. Whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, untap it. If it's the first combat phase of the turn, there is an additional combat phase after this phase. Which sounds pretty cool, like, oh boy, I get to attack twice? That's like insane. Oh my god, I'm going to do so much damage. But in order to do that, you have to attack with a single creature first, which basically just says, like, sure, if you have a whole bunch of things, all those abilities trigger, then you attack, and all those abilities trigger again. But what I really think will be happening here is you attack with the one thing, hopefully it lives, maybe, maybe not, I don't know, I mean, your deck's kind of built around that happening multiple times, you just attack, attack, every turn. So it should live, whatever samurai you choose to, attack with. And then, for your second combat phase, well, you got all your abilities to go off, hopefully that was worth it. I'm going to attack with everything now, because why not? It's another combat phase. Whereas you could have just initially attacked with all your creatures, and maybe thrown in a 4-mana 3/3 haster to get the extra damage in there. Or thrown in a burn spell, or thrown in something else. I don't like this card. If it was just whenever you attack, like the things like there's no real great way to balance it while having this effect, because the requirement of attacking alone is so bad, I believe, which I've been quite vocal about, that it's either going to be terrible or it's going to be overpowered in the way that you try to compensate for it. And I'm not really, a fan of overcompensation. So, yeah. I'm going to say this is likely going to just be a 4-mana 3/3 first strike, which is okay. And like a 2.5 out of 5 in limited. In standard, I don't think this will see any play there. There are more aggressive creatures in those colors that you don't want to play if you just want to end the game faster. Risana Asari Commander. I mean, this is aggressive too. So, costs 1 a red and a white, just 1 less than the previous one. For a legendary creature, human samurai 3/3 with haste. Whenever this card deals combat damage to a player, if it doesn't have an indestructible counter on it, put 1 on it. There you go, it's now indestructible. Whenever combat damage is dealt to you, remove an indestructible counter from Risona. So it does have to be combat damage dealt, so, you can't bolt your opponent and this is indestructible. Similarly, they can't just, ping you and suddenly, oh no, like, they can kill my thing now. No, they do have to actually connect to the creature. 3-mana 3/3 haste that can somewhat reasonably become indestructible and then continue to attack is damn nice. Or maybe you attack with it one time, and you're good there. Let's see. So in order for this to get indestructible, this creature specifically has to deal the damage. And for it to lose the counter, any combat damage has to be dealt to you. Okay, good to know there. But still, you can keep this back as a blocker and be like, I did my job. What's up? I guess it's a decent human samurai to keep that might want to keep attacking or stay back. I don't know. I don't think the samurai thing is really going anywhere, as I just got finished saying. But yeah, card's legit. Like 3.5 out of 5. Also very important that it does provide you with a modified creature once it connects. And just the stats are good. 3-mana 3/3 haste. Yeah, definitely. In standard, I could see it seeing some play. Yeah, like 2.5, maybe even 3 if for some reason there's... Yeah, there could definitely be an aggressive, I don't know if it'd be in Boros exactly, but an aggressive, like, kind of, hasty, modified creature, bonus stuff, whatever. I think that could be a deck. Satoru Umezawa. Somewhat related to Umezawa's Jite, I guess, is the thing. So, maybe I guess it's some sort of that lineage. For 1, a blue and a black, you have legendary creature, human ninja. It is a 2/4. Whenever you activate an ninjutsu ability, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand, and thus at the bottom of your library, in any order you choose. This ability triggers only once each turn, and each creature card in your hand has ninjutsu for 2, a blue, and a black. Ninjutsu for 4 is expensive. I think the only ninjutsu cards that are going to see any play, if they even see any play, in standard are going to be ones that cost like 2, maybe 3. 4 is a hell of a lot. Yeah, then I really don't think ninjutsu is going to get anywhere. This is giving you advantage, or giving you like a card to try to make up for your tempo loss of, I'm spending 4 mana to attack with the same number of creatures, but one of them's a little different now. Whereas you could just play a combat trick. Yeah, the effects are different. You know, combat trick doesn't usually get to look at your opponent's hand and take a card out of it, or get to, you know, exile something and then do some other stuff, whatever it is. But no, just no. The only time any like ninjutsu things see play is like Pauper, and you have Ninja of the Deep Hours, which is kind of cool. You draw cards with it. All right, it's neat. And then Legacy, you have like Yuriko, which is insane, and because it provides you, it triggers after any ninja does damage, and also Ingenious Infiltrator. And the reason that's even a deck is because of Changeling Outcast, which is just a 1 mana, can't block, and is unblockable, and then Memnite and Ornithopter. Anyway, that's how that's where ninjutsu sees play in other formats. I don't think it's going to see any play in this format, or at least no successful play. Therefore, this guy is a 3 mana 2/4 to me, and that doesn't mean a whole lot. Okay, yeah, 3 mana 2/4, like a 2 out of 5. In standard, like a 0 out of 5. If you ninjutsu a card out there, cool. Hopefully you have enough mana to play it again, otherwise I feel bad. Satsuki, the Living Lore. Remember, your true opponent is Dehydration. For a green and a white, you get a 1/3 legendary creature, Human Druid. You can tap this and put a lore counter on each saga you control. Activate only as a sorcery. When Satsuki, the Living Lore, dies, choose up to 1. Either return target saga or enchantment creature you control to its owner's hand, or return target saga card from your graveyard to your hand. At first, I looked at the first ability and I was like, well, do I really want to speed through my saga so quickly? And the answer is absolutely, because once you get to that last chapter, it flips over, becomes an enchantment creature with usually some ability or some, you know, benefits and such, and that's what you want to do, and then you can start actually, you know, beating people in the face. Whereas maybe in the past you didn't exactly want to rush to it, maybe there was like some kind of pacing issue. Pardon me. Right pipe, I just can't breathe. I can breathe, I'm fine, sorry. Maybe there's some sort of pacing where, you know, supposed to take a turn to do this and this because that just plays out better. Or maybe you were trying to set some things up. But yes, I do believe that you definitely want to, you know, just go ahead and tap this whenever you can if you get some good value off of it. And then when it dies, you get to get some things back. Important thing here. The first one says return target saga or enchantment creature, so just bounce something to its owner's hand. So if you pick an enchantment creature that is a saga on the front side, then you can replay it. That's, I think, what we're going for. But it doesn't have to be a saga creature. It can be just one of the random creatures that is also an enchantment. The second part says specifically return target saga from your graveyard to your hand. It can only target sagas, not any other enchantments, not any enchantment creatures. Can't target auras, it has to be a saga. If you got no sagas, I feel bad for you, bro. But this card is quite nice, I think, in limited, like, yeah, totally, perfectly reasonable card. You know, stats are okay, but it does a lot outside of that. So, and it's probably going to survive, but it's not going to die to too much removal, I think, and your opponent might not want to remove it until it's too late and you have already sped along the story. You've pressed fast forward too many times for them to recover. So, this card, in my mind, is like a 3.5 out of 5 in limited. This card's actually really good. In standard, will it see play? It's nice against like board wipes, where your opponent wipes the board, this is in the graveyard, and you get to... This is legendary, so I only have one of them, really. But you can legend rule it and get a saga back. Like, there's some uses there. So I'll say 2 out of 5 in standard. Pardon me, and I think I said 3, or did I say 3.5? I'm gonna say 3 in limited. Yeah. Silver for Master. Costs blue and a black for a 2/2 Ninja Splinter. Cool. Ninjutsu for blue and a black. See, only costs 2. Might actually be useful. Ninjutsu abilities you activate cost 1 less to activate. Okay, you're trying to get there. Other ninja and rogue creatures you control get +1/+1. So that's nice. That little Lord ability there can make some, you know, very interesting combat things happen. Where you attack with the things, okay, favorable blocks, maybe your opponent's just You attack with a bunch of things. Your opponent blocks. Some things probably aren't great for you. And they're like, well, and your opponent might figure that you're just trying to get a creature through to ninjutsu, but they're still going to get some good trades along the way, and you're going to lose tempo. They're going to make out in the long run. Oh, but suddenly I have this thing, though. And when you sneak this thing in, then maybe you win those trades instead, or maybe, you actually do trade and not just, get chump blocked, essentially. Regardless of what I'm trying to say here, this card's not terrible. I think I would rather just play this as a 2-mana 2/2 and ignore the ninjutsu thing, and furthermore, ignore the ninjutsu reduction, just say it's a 2-mana 2/2 that buffs my dudes. Okay? I don't like ninjutsu. So yeah, I just don't like it. So with that, I'll give this a 2 out of 5 still, because if you're playing a bunch of ninjas, they do add a little cost to them because of their ninjutsu stuff, which I don't care for. So they're more expensive for a mechanic that probably isn't very good. And in standard, no, it's not bad. Like, I'll give it a 1 out of 5. Maybe see some play. I'm not going to give it the whole 0. Also, it's Splinter, so, you gotta give Splinter something. Alright. Spirit Sister's Call is a, 5 mana, costs 3, a black and a white. For an enchantment. Look at this thing. Also, I think the artwork here is really nice. Like, just the dragons are getting beamed up. What do you want? What more do you want? At the beginning of your end step, choose target permanent card in your graveyard. So, end step, okay, that one. You may sacrifice a permanent that shares a card type with the chosen card. If you do, so you don't have to sacrifice the thing, but you do have to target a card at the end, I guess, every time, just, as a formality. If you do, return the chosen card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it gains if this permanent would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. Very important to note, I don't know how many effects we have that will actually, that do that in standard, but I think there's a couple. If you flicker this card, where, it exiles, and then more or less immediately comes back into play, or if not flicker this card, but if you flicker whatever permanent you bring back that gets that last line, like, ability there, it will work, because flickering exiles it anyway, so it's going to its intended destination, and then the game looks for that card in exile when it tries to bring it back into the battlefield, and it will be there, because of multiple things. So, yes, flickering does work, and that's lovely. Now, the first place I went to is this is a 5-mana Reanimator. Okay. That's cool. Continual Reanimator, you have to have some creatures on the board, I guess. If you're reanimating an artifact creature, you can just have an artifact, and that's kind of fun. But then I looked at the other, and particularly the other multicolored cards, and there's the one. Is it coming up next? No, that'd be a little too fortunate. But there's the 5-colored saga, and I was like, wow, that's difficult, and it doesn't. I think it's Okagachi made manifest, or maybe that's the other side of it. Regardless. And it's like, wow, that costs a lot, and I don't know if it's really worth it. And then I thought about this thing. It's like, well, you can sacrifice any artifact, and if that's in your graveyard, you don't have to cast it. You just put it on the board, and there it is. So that's a good way, not only to cheat out things that are more expensive, potentially, but also things that are more difficult to cast. That is nice. And I like that quite a bit. So, like that. Also, I believe that, yeah, this works with sagas because when they flip over, they do get exiled in the return. So it's almost like flickering it that way, so that'll actually be fine. This last line doesn't mean that sagas can't become their enchantment creatures. So, hey, bonus points there. Let's see now. With that, I believe this card's pretty cool. 5 mana is a lot to ask, but being able to turn any creature, or you can even just go through lands if you really want to. I don't know what kind of lands deck you're running, but go for it. Any artifact into a stronger artifact creature that's in the graveyard, like any dinky little thing. Your opponent might not be able to remove this, and if they can't, then any threat is basically your biggest threat. In the ideal world. I'm going to bring this down a little bit in limited to a 3 out of 5 because I don't know how reliably you can put things in the graveyard. Maybe you have Kaito Suzuki and you're running Esper in limited and I want to do that so badly, but those are 2 mythic cards and good luck getting those. It's possible, just not likely. Let's see, but this is actually quite a nice thing. And it triggers at the beginning of your end step, so although it's not immediate, it does happen the turn you play it, so it will affect the board a bit. It can potentially save you a turn or so. Yeah. It is relevant. In standard, oh, I want this to be good so badly. I really want this to be a relevant thing. And of course, black is going to be in reanimation and whatever you're doing there. Black also has quite a few ways to discard cards to put them in the graveyard so you can bring them back cheap. So this is great. White, how often do we see white? There's some use for white. Mainly Thrilling Discovery and other, like, you could do, like, Faithful Mending, potentially, to discard cards as well. Yeah. I'm going to try to make this card work, mostly because, in case you haven't noticed, I really like Reanimator. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 in Constructed, and I hope it's actually better, like in Standard. And in Limited, I think I said 3 out of 5 as well. So yeah, 3 out of 5 both, in both directions. Here is Tamiyo. Kind of the OG Tamiyo. I believe she is from, potentially, I don't know, she's a Moonfolk person, and this is the one from some variety of industry. I think it's Avacyn Restored, maybe? So yeah, there you go. Well, let me tell you, if you liked Tamiyo before, you're gonna completely love her now. Tamiyo Completed Sage. This was the big, like, kind of end credits almost reveal at the end of the first, like, Kamigawa, not first, but like the 45-minute long Kamigawa reveal announcement thingy put out by Wizards. Oh boy, this thing. Guys, in case you're not familiar with the phrase completed, spelled that way, and the mana symbol that's kind of right over there looks a little strange, the Phyrexians got her. And they did quite a number on her. Now, I don't think she's fantastic, and I didn't give her the whole award and whatnot, but it's pretty cool. It's also very concerning. So that mana symbol there is called Forexian Mana. This costs 2, a green, a hybrid Phyrexian Mana, blue or green, and then a blue cost. In the past, in, what was it, Mirrored and Besieged, I believe. Actually, no, I think it was just New Phyrexia. Maybe both sets, I'm not sure. But there was this thing where instead of paying, you could either just pay the color for it, ignoring the whole completed text there. You can either play the color, or like I was mentioning before with Surgical Extraction, you can pay 2 life instead of paying that mana. And that made a lot of things super cheap, because 2 life, what's 2 life if I can play this like a turn earlier, or 2 turns earlier? Yeah. So that made things very fast, very busted, and just a whole lot of complaining was had. But I like Phyrexian, so what are you going to do? The way they attempted to balance this, and I do believe they did a fair job, is they added this little keyword here called completed. It's a keyword which means that there's probably going to be more of these going around, hey? Also, Jin-Gitaxias somehow found a way to preserve the Planeswalker Spark in someone that went through the process of completion, which Elish Norn was doubtful would be possible, but he found a way. Because he's Jin-Gitaxias. Hey. And those are Praetors, and Phyrexian lore be damned. So, the hybrid mana, the Phyrexian hybrid mana, can be paid with green or blue or 2 life. That is the same as how it was in the past. If life was paid, this Planeswalker enters with 2 fewer loyalty counters. I like that it kind of says, like, you either pay 2 life for that if you want to, but if you pay the 2 life, Tamiyo loses the life. Tamiyo takes the hit, and instead of being a 5 mana with 5 loyalty Planeswalker, it is a 4 mana with 3 loyalty, and that's a big hit there. Alright, now that we've established how to cast this card, the +1 is tap up to 1 target artifact or creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Interesting, okay, but protection, I gotcha. -X. Exile target non-land permanent card with mana value X from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card. Gets the card out of there, but you get it. It's kind of Reanimator. It's basically Reanimator. You know, I like Reanimator, so yeah. Although blue-green Reanimator, I actually haven't played any sort of reanimation with green, aside from having Coma in the deck, but not having any way to hardcast it, really, so yeah. Interesting, that is another way to get something on the board, which potentially is supposed to help Tamiyo. Usually +1 is protection, minus is advantage, and this is indeed the case. -7, the ultimate, is create Tamiyo's Notebook a legendary colorless artifact token. Not an emblem. You get an artifact that can absolutely get blown up. With spells you cast, cost 2 less to cast, and tap to draw a card. It's good. It's not fantastic, but it is quite strong. Is it ultimate worthy? I guess so. If you're planning on getting there, you probably want to just pay the whole mana cost and not start off like 2 turns with an extra 2 turns to go. But it's not exactly game-breaking either. I mean, the tap to draw a card is awesome, but the reason it's not super crazy amazing is because it's not an emblem. It can absolutely be destroyed. So, with all these things here, you got something that keeps a creature down, and revives the creature, you know, reanimates the thing, okay, cheapens your stuff, and then draws cards, pretty good. Overall, Tamiyo is alright. I think I'm more excited about just the shock value and the story value with having a Planeswalker that has been taken by the Phyrexians, you know, that has been completed, versus what the card actually does. Despite that, I think having all these things on the one card does make it pretty strong. So I will say, because it can just keep one thing tapped forever, as long as it doesn't, you know, get too many hits done. I'll say that in Limited, go ahead, just go ahead and go nuts and play this, and in Limited I do believe it's a bomb. I'm going to say 5 out of 5 Limited, because it's going to be difficult for your opponent to deal with it. Hopefully you have another creature here or there. If not, you can make one, and you'll probably be able to ultimate this thing. I don't know, it has pretty good protection. In Standard, not quite the same story. 5 mana is a lot to do, not as much as you might want to do, so with that, I'm going to say 3 out of 5. You might see 1 or 2 of these. There aren't going to be dedicated, I'm going to play 4 Tamiyo completed Sage decks. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that right now. It's not happening, but they're cool. It's cool. Oh, and there is a blurry version of the actual Phyrexian wording. Look at all that. There's a subreddit devoted to translating the Phyrexian language, and good luck, guys. This is a doozy, I'm sure, but more power. I hope you get it there, and yeah. The Kami War. This is the one, and the other side is Okagachi Made Manifest. Okay, this is what I thought would be pretty cool to, you know, cheat in with Spirit Sister's Call. So the Kami War is a saga that costs 1 white, blue, black, red, and we'll go with this one, and green. 6 mana, 5 of which have to be those different colors. Chapter 1 better be damn important. Oh, exile target non-land permanent opponent controls. For 6 mana, we could do that before with like a single color. I think it's called like Blinding Light or something. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it only targets creatures, I don't know. But yeah, that's a lot to pay for a strong but not that strong ability. Or strong effect, I should say. Chapter 2. Return up to 1 other target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Then each opponent discards a card. So I guess that's the blue and black way of like... So the first part is very white and exiling. The second part is very blue-black and bouncing and then making them discard. Okay. So I guess the other side's going to be the red and the green? Maybe, that's how I'm reading this. But for 6 mana, you do a little thing, then on turn 7, if you're lucky, you bounce something and they discard? Why not just kill another thing? I would be okay with killing another thing. Exile, send to the graveyard or destroy, but it doesn't say that. And when you finally flip it over, you get Okagachi Made Manifest, which is all colors. It's nice. Nice little thing to know. 6 mana, not 6 mana. It is a 6/6 Flying Trample Spirit Dragon. Not legendary, actually. Is this legendary on the other side? Nope. Okay. You can play multiples. Good luck with that, though. Whenever Okagachi Made Manifest attacks, defending player chooses a non-land card in your graveyard. Return that card to your hand. Okagachi Made Manifest gets +X+0 until the turn where X is the mana value of that card. This side is very powerful. Don't get me wrong. It does limit your opponent to choosing non-land cards, so they can't just be like, here, you can get a swamp back. Ha, it doesn't do anything. No, they have to pick something that... You might have things that kind of have 0 mana value, but odds are it's going to be something. And at least you get some mana value back to your hand. Let's see, it doesn't have to be a permanent either, so your opponent might have to choose between, well, do I want to give them a creature, which I can't really deal with, or a kill spell, which I can't really reasonably give them. Okay, You know, they're going to try to give you a few nonsense things, and eventually, I suppose it's just going to power up as it goes. And 6/6 Flying Trample is also something your opponent cannot ignore. So, if you can possibly get this down, and you clear the way from, like, you know, you clear 2 things out of the way, and then on turn, was it 6, 7, 8? No, 6, 7, yeah. On turn 8, this enters the battlefield. On turn 9, if you're lucky, this thing can attack. Okay, I guess. It's a lot of hoops to go through. I don't think this card is bad. There's a lot of speculation. There's like, why does it have the 1 there in front of the whole, like, Wooburg? Why couldn't it just cost 1 of each color? And it's like, well, maybe in playtesting, multiple people have thought this, maybe in playtesting it was too powerful if it only cost 1 of each mana. And so they added the 1 because that balanced the card out a little bit. I don't know if I'm really convinced by that. Maybe it was... No, I was going to say maybe it's because of something... Maybe it's because of some other synergy where you can bring back sagas into play or something, versus just hard casting it. Maybe that, like, added some difficulty there. But, I mean, honestly, in Limited, if you see this, I would take it just for the artwork. I love it. I would love having that thing on a scroll somewhere, just hanging up, or like a curtain, or just, I have like a towel with a big dragon on it somewhere that I got like a convention a while ago. And this just looks awesome. And this is also fantastic too. Artwork really well done. Is that Kieran, I believe it says? It's hard to read here, but I think he did a great job. But I don't know if this is great in Limited. I would probably... I would hate to pass this card, but I might just have to, you know, internalize that hatred and pass the card. Yeah. So I'm going to rate this at a 3 out of 5 in Limited. It's a very strong card, but it's very difficult to cast. And it comes down pretty late. And then it could probably run away with the game, but good luck getting it there. In Standard, you really want a card that costs, like, on turn 6 or 7 if you're getting stuff, that just wins you the game. And it doesn't actually protect itself at all. Like, I would get it if it said protection from something, you know, or hexproof. Hey, you know, that'd be awesome. No. 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 Feels bad. Maybe cheated in with the sisters doing sisterly things. Spirit Sisters Call, but otherwise, I'm sorry, I gotta kind of pass in the Kami War. I'll give it a 2.5 out of 5 in Standard. Maybe a 3 if you can cheat it out there, but hard casting, it's gonna be a tall order. Okay, we are finally into the colorless cards. I know, it's been a while. We only just got through the multicolored cards, but then the lands are going to be pretty quick. Hopefully this won't take too long. Alright, let's keep going. Automated Artificer is a 2-mana, 1/3 artifact creature Artificer. You can tap to add a colorless mana. Spend this mana only to activate an ability or cast an artifact spell. It's cool. Just kind of a mana rock that plays more mana, mana rock that plays more rocks. It's interesting. I don't hate it. It kind of clogs up the board a little bit, maybe, but not fantastic. If you have a lot of artifacts, sure, go nuts, or some vehicles, do your thing. I'll give it like a 1.5 out of 5. It doesn't actually ramp for anything other than artifacts, so good luck. And in Standard, 0. Brute Suit is just a great name. It's a 3-mana, 4/3 artifact vehicle with vigilance and crew just 1. So in Limited, this is kind of cool. I'll give it 2.5, because vigilance is relevant, I guess, and it's super easy to crew. Any little 1/1 spirit token even can just hop in this thing and go to town. So yeah, really nice card. Pretty versatile, pretty threatening for your opponent too, even though it's just a common. In Standard, this might see some play. If it costs 2, it would absolutely see some play. That extra mana thing really balances it out, so it's not quite there, but maybe something. So I'll say 2 out of 5 in Standard as well. Yep, 2 out of 5, both ways. Circuit Mender, actually, no, in Limited 2.5 out of 5, or in Limited 3 out of 5, hell, in Standard 2 out of 5, there we go. I can't talk on it that much and be like, yeah, but it's plain. No, it's good. Circuit Mender is a 3-mana, 2/3 artifact creature insect. That's a bug. Oh, look, and there's bugs and stuff, and okay. When Circuit Mender enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. When it leaves, you draw a card. Simple, straight, to the point, does what you need it to do. Alright, replaces itself in the worst case. It's the mini Palaka worm. Little tiny worm. Yeah. Card solid. Nothing wrong with that. In Limited, super easy, not a problem, like 2.5, maybe even 3, if you have Artifact Synergy. In Standard, it costs too much. Do something else. Containment Construct costs 2 for a 2/1 construct artifact creature. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. If you do, you may play that card this turn, trying to take away the downside of having to discard things. I think there were other cards that did a similar thing. I'm thinking of Riel, but she just has you draw cards, but you still have to discard cards. So, Riel the Everwise. Ah, what a card. But I don't know how much discard we really have in this set. There's a little bit, and there's Kaito Suzuki. I know he can discard cards for you, but it's kind of not really an amazing thing to do. I don't know. I'm not keen on this. Basically, most of the time you're going to be playing a 2-mana 2/1. I guess this can help protect if your opponent makes you discard cards. And it's an option. You don't have to exile them. But Yeah, I'm gonna give this like a good old 1 out of 5 in limited. I don't think it's really that great. And a 0 in standard. I don't trust it. Trust it. Dramatists Puppet is a 4-mana 2/4 artifact creature construct. When Dramatists Puppet enters the battlefield, for each kind of counter on target permanent, so you have to target something, put another counter of that kind on it, or remove one from it. So you take a look at your bonus thing. Oh, it's got a +1/+1 counter. It's giving them a modified creature. I'm going to remove that counter. If it has multiple things, say it's the Biting Palm Ninja. They got a +1/+1 counter from something else, and it has Menace counter on it as well. You can remove both of those. But if something has 2 +1/+1 counters, you can only remove 1. On the other side, if you have a creature with a counter on it, you can add another one of those. Nice. It only adds or removes 1 of each type, and it doesn't actually provide any on its own. So if you don't have any creatures with counters, and your opponent doesn't, it's a 4-mana 2/4, which is potentially game-losing. That's a lot of tempo to just not have. At least that has 4 toughness, so, you know, it can probably block a few 3-drops, but, ooh, that's not doing a whole lot. And it's only an enter the battlefield trigger, so, you know, after you play it and you miss that window, you're not going to have any real use for this card. So, yeah, like a 1 out of 5 in limited and nothing in constructed. Eater of Virtue is a 1-mana legendary artifact equipment. Not a creature, it is just an equipment. This thing does not have the capacity to attack on its own, although you might think it does, but after reading the card. Whenever a equipped creature dies, exile it. So it only costs 1 to equip. The equipped creature gets +2/+0, and while it's equipped to a creature, if the creature it's equipped to dies, the creature gets exiled. This thing just hangs on the battlefield as equipment does. As long as a card exiled with Eater of Virtue has flying, the equipped creature has flying. The same is true for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Protection, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. Wow, that's a lot of keywords. If you are familiar with Odric from back in the day, or even just, you know, the previous set, then yeah, you're familiar with keyword soup, I guess. So essentially this card, whenever the creature dies that's equipped with this, it just kind of sucks its soul up. It's like, you're mine now. And then the next person to bear the sword has all the powers of the ancestors until it also gets consumed by the Eater of Virtue. Really nice, really cool thing. I like it. Also, just 1 mana equipped for 1 gives +2/+0 is good. Like, it's not... Is that a Bone Splitter? It might be a Bone Splitter. I don't even know, but it's not bad at all. And I don't know how many keywords you're going to have on creatures that you equip with this thing, but even giving it something as simple as, okay, you have +2/+0 and flying is probably the easiest one to come by, and it's very relevant. First Strike, awesome. Yeah. Legit card. Absolutely legitimate card. If you put this on a token, and then the token dies, the token can't be exiled, it is actually just removed from the board entirely. It just ceases to exist, and even if the token had a keyword, it would not pass it on to the Eater of Virtue. There you go. But yeah, because this thing is so cheap to play and equip, yeah, this is actually one of the few equipments that I'm going to say is good. And, like, few just equipments, that's good. And I'll say, like, 3.5 out of 5 in limited, and, 2.5 out of 5 standard, yeah. It's just so cheap. like, it's hard to... It's a 1-drop! This is the 1-drop alert that I forgot to say, but now I'm saying it. Yeah. 1-drops be damned. You take them. You take what you can get. Ecologists Terrarium. Oh, look, it's a little bonsai tree. It's so tiny. 2-mana artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Even though it's showing a tree here, you can search for any basic land. No, I looking at this, I would assume it's just a forest, but it's not. You can pay 2 and tap this to sacrifice it, and add a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Activate only as a sorcery. So you play this, it hangs around, gets you a land, and then later on you can buff a creature and, you know, give yourself a modified thing and do what you gotta do. Yeah, nice card. Honestly, I like it. It's very simple, it does what it does, and it does it pretty well. So, like, 2.5 out of 5. Maybe even, you know what, I'm gonna say 3 out of 5 unlimited, because it mana fixes and it buffs a creature at the end of the day. Nothing's wrong with that. In standard, it's too slow. I would rather have a golden egg or a gold globe or something to, you know, go through stuff. Or a Mycosynth Wellspring? Yeah? Yeah, we're going to say that. Not the Ichor one. Ichor one's the one that just shows you a card, which is still very strong. It's actually the preferred Wellspring. But hey. Going off the land thing, I'll say Microsynth Wellspring. High Speed Hoverbike is a strange card. 2 mana, 2/2 artifact vehicle with flash and flying. When it enters the battlefield, tap up to 1 target creature, and crew cost of 1. Odds are you're not going to want to crew this too often, maybe, to have something with flying, because it only has 2 power anyway. Maybe the ground's really clogged up, though, and it's like, well, I guess I'll crew this thing. But I want to understand how, I guess maybe the Hoverbike just falls out of the sky and it taps a creature, because it doesn't have to be crewed to tap anything. It's just like, okay, in response to you in response to you entering combat, I drop a Hoverbike on your creature and it's tapped now. I don't know what the flavor is behind that, but I think it's hilarious either way. It's okay. It's okay, though. It's not great, but it's okay. I'll say like a 2 out of 5. And limited, honestly, I think the most utility is going to be just 2 mana tap target creature. And you get an artifact, and it could be relevant as a flyer. Otherwise, not so much. Standard, nope. Iron Apprentice is a 1 mana 0/0 artifact creature construct. When an Iron Apprentice enters the battlefield, enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, so it doesn't immediately die under its own weight. When Iron Apprentice does die, though, if it had counters on it, put those counters on target creature you control. So, are you familiar with modular? Because that's basically modular 1. Although it also adds any, I don't know if it works, it functions this way with modular as well, but it takes any counters that it had, so it could be keyword counters, +1/+1 counters, other counters, I don't know, maybe Kaya Ghost Form counter or whatever, on it, and it just transfers it to whatever other creature you want, essentially. And that's kind of fun. Just 1 mana, 1/1 basically, and then it can pass off whatever it had. It's fine. I thought this was actually a very, very strong card, and then I realized, well, modular was good, but this is not exactly that. And this is the only card that actually does that, as opposed to having multiples where you can really just have a huge spike in power. So, card's okay. Card's okay. I'm going to say 2.5. Put it just a little bit above average, because I like it, but maybe it should just be a 2, but I'm going to stick with 2.5 in limited. In standard, I could see this seeing some play in like a mono red, like, you know, an artifact aggressive deck, maybe even a Boros thing, and just say I'm attacking with this, and then when it dies, because, you know, you block it, whatever, then I can just put the counter on something else and be okay with that. So with that, I'll say 2.5 out of 5 in standard, and 2.5 out of 5 in limited. Hey, I still like the guy. Mech Titan Core, the background card here, is a 2 mana 2/4 vehicle with crew cost of 2. A lot of 2s there. You can pay 5 and read this paragraph. Exile this card and 4 other artifact creatures and or vehicles you control. Not just other artifacts that are hanging around. They actually have to be, you know, they have to have a soul. Create, and the vehicles don't have to be crewed, which is nice because that'd be excessive, but still. Create Mech Titan, a legendary 10/10 construct artifact creature token with flying, vigilance, trample, lifelink, and haste. That's all colors. If only you could eat, if only that soul eater, whatever sword can consume the token, but it can't, but if only it could. That's all colors, right? When that token leaves the battlefield, return all cards exiled with Mech Titan Core, except Mech Titan Core, to the battlefield tapped under their owner's control. Because otherwise, you could literally just, you know, when it eventually dies, just pay the 5 again and put it back together. It's like, haha, and it's nearly an unkillable creature. You can do this at instant speed, which is very nice. So if your opponent's like, I'm going to attack, haha, well, I surprise you, I'll pay my 5 mana, and I form Voltron. Literally, you're just putting all these things together to make like a Megazord, which is Power Rangers, not Voltron. I know. You know, God forbid I stick to one franchise, fan base, who knows? It's asking a whole lot for you, not to just have 4 other artifacts, which would be super easy, but like actual other creatures and vehicles. I don't know if this even goes in a vehicle deck. Do you really want to try to get that thing out there? Of course you do, because if you do, you basically just win. It has lifelink, so you're actually just going to pad your life total anyway. Flying, vigilance, lifelink, haste, that's such a... Oh, all those keywords are so good. It doesn't have any of the bad keywords. They're all good ones. Oh, wow. That might be able to, like, see some play. We're going to ignore that 5 for a second, just for a quick second, and say 2 mana, 2/4, crew cost of 2. Not great. It's really just a blocker there. So if it was just that, I would put it, like, a 1.5 out of 5. Maybe it's alright. If you manage to get that to work, though, congrats. Again, similar to the other cards where I said, like, if you manage to get Okagachi made manifest or whatever it was, on the board, the white dragon where you can pay Wooburg to buff it, then I might just concede to you. Then you're probably going to win anyway. Yeah, that is damn strong. And I'll probably concede to you if you manage to make Voltron out of this. In limited, you could probably get a few things, but you'll really be hurting to get all those out there. It's not at all a free ability to trigger. So I'll bump it up to a 3. I'm not going to make it more than that because it's going to be difficult to work with. But goddamn, if your opponent doesn't see this coming, you play this when you have 7 mana. Play the core, kill something in response. Exactly. In standard, I'm going to leave it at a 2.5 right in the middle. I don't know if this is going to be the big balance monster you're trying to get to, but maybe. 2.5. Mirror Box is a 3-mana artifact. The legend rule does not apply to permanents you control. In case you're not familiar, and hopefully you are, but maybe you're not, the legend rule is legendary creatures. If you play another legendary permanent that has the same name as another one, whether it be creatures, there's legendary artifacts, there's legendary enchantments, you know. Then, let's see, enters the battlefield, and you have to choose one of those two to be sent to the graveyard, and the other one stays on the battlefield. You can't have 2 of them. So, that happened quite a bit with Annex, Hardened the Forge, as kind of an advantage, because you would play it, and they would see each other and get the little buff, and then one would die with at least 4 power, which would make bonus Satyr tokens. Anywho, each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1. Okay? Each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name as that creature. So this is trying to make use of having a whole bunch. You can have a whole army of insert legendary creature here. So you can't have 2 Eaters of Virtue on the board at the same time. Okay, cool. Unless you have this. Then you can. Then you can have a bunch. There we go. Cool. Of course, it doesn't really work for that. For any of the other abilities, it doesn't really do anything. But let's see. This is, I think, more of a callback to how there were a lot of legends back in the original Kamigawa. There was like 1 or 2 in each pack. I think there was 1 guaranteed, maybe. And there was just a whole lot going on there. There were a few cards that also managed to get around the legend rule back in the day. So this is a callback to that. I don't know how relevant this is going to be if you're going to have a deck that has a whole bunch of, you know, insert legendary creature here. Oh boy, wow, I'm going to do all that. But I think maybe just for that second line where they get buffed, that's nice. That's not bad. And I don't know that that last thing is really going to be relevant. Also, I don't think you're going to want to have a deck that relies on this being on the board in order for you to actually play out your hand. So in constructed, like in standard, I'm going to give this a 1.5, mostly just for that middle line where legendary creatures get buffed. In limited, I don't think you're going to have that many copies of creatures, let alone legendary creatures. So yeah, not super important there, and I'm going to keep this at a 1 in limited. But maybe you'll get a few things. Bronze Cudgels. You know, I had to look around quite a few places to find the English version of this card, because for some reason there's plenty of things online where they have different languages. And I was like, what is this darn thing called? Couldn't figure it out. But we finally got one. Just the things I go through, right? In addition to recording a video that's going to potentially border on 2 hours. But hey, thanks for sticking around. So, 1 mana artifact equipment. You can pay 2 until end of turn. Equipped creature gets +X+0, where X is the number of times this ability has resolved this turn. Huh. Mana sink if I ever saw one. And equipped cost is only 1. It's a 1-drop. 1-drop alert. Here we go. 1 mana. Only costs 1. Watch out. 1s. Equip cost is also only 1. We're getting somewhere. We're going places. We're not bad. But it doesn't do anything until you pay 2 mana at least. So let's see. You pay 2 mana, and it resolves 1 time, and it gets +1/+0. You pay it again, and it gets +2, which totals up to +3/+0. So you pay 4 mana for +3, and then if you do it again, it gets actual +3/+0, which is going to be +6 for 6 mana. And then after that, you're doing pretty well. Listen, this is a mana sink, and this is not a horrible one. Also, this is not at sorcery speed. This can be done at instant speed. It has to be equipped already. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, this you can just turn on and be like, I'm going to attack with these things. Your opponent might not want to block whatever this thing, like whatever is equipped with this, because it can potentially get massive. It's likely reasonable you're going to put 6 mana into it and get +6/+6, or +6/+0. And a few hits with something like that, and your opponent's going to be hurting. So yeah, I think this is actually quite a nice card. You usually want to have some mana sink somewhere in your deck unlimited for when you top deck a card and you're not doing anything, and like, well, at least I can play this, and then if I get a creature later on, I can start swinging for the fences. Yeah, 3 out of 5 limited. Standard, do we want to see this? Not too much. It might just barely be aggressive enough, but I don't know it's not, because you want to do it at least 3 times for it to really go crazy, and that's 6 mana. You want to do other things for 6 mana. But, Okay, so in limited, in standard, I'm going to put this at a 1.5. I like the ability there. I don't know. They really had to dial it back in order to make it instant speed, though. But in standard, but in limited, yeah, like a 3. 3. Network Terminal is a 3-mana artifact. You could tap and add 1 mana of any color. Hey, look at that. Pretty nice. Or you can pay 1 and tap it, and tap another untapped artifact you control. Draw a card, then discard a card. So, really nice utility there. If it definitely helps you with mana fixing, to add a mana of any color you want to. And if your mana is already pretty good, then you can just start looting. As long as you have another artifact. Yeah, card's super legit, super solid. Like, 3.5 out of 5. Go ahead. Run a few of these in your deck. I wouldn't feel bad about it. Mana ramp, mana fixing, awesome. In standard, will it see any play? Probably not. I think it would. It would if it, like, ETB draw a card. Okay, that'd be nice. But it doesn't do that, and it's a very slow thing for what it is. So I will say, like, 2 out of 5. It might see a little bit of play, like maybe a 1 or 2 of, but we have things like, you know, the Celestis, I think is what it is, which is pretty good and does a better job of what this thing's doing. So, yeah, maybe not so much. Ninja's Kunai is a 1-mana equipment. Another one! Another single one with equip for 1! And the equipped creature has to pay 1! And tap that creature, sacrifice Ninja's Kunai, and Ninja's Kunai deals 3 damage to any target. So I like how in total you have to pay 3 mana. You have to pay 1 to play this card, 1 to equip it, and then 1 to actually activate the ability to deal 3. So 3 mana deal 3, right? No, but it's spread out across multiple turns if you want to. And that's not a bad thing. These sorts of effects, also as any target, you can do it to your opponent's face, or you can remove a creature. This is basically removal, and I like it. Also, it gives you modified things because you equip this onto a creature really cheaply, and that's a cheap modified thing if you have cards that care about that. So with that, 3 out of 5, maybe even a little higher if you can leverage that modification bonus, but otherwise just 3 out of 5. In standard, these kind of cards don't really see much play at all, but it's still kind of fun to have them around. In standard, I'm going to say 0.5 out of 5. Because you know what? It's cheap enough. Just maybe. Just maybe. Papercraft Decoy is a 2-mana 2/1 artifact creature frog. Why not a toad? Okay, this one makes sense for frog. When Papercraft Decoy leaves the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you do draw a card, it's probably going to be pretty difficult to keep that 2 mana up all the time. It's going to be really kind of taxing on you. Like, oh, are you going to kill it now? No, maybe later? No, maybe now? Your opponent might wait for you to tap out or just have 1 mana open so they can kill this and not give you the card back. Eh? But if you don't manage to get it to work, it's a 2-mana 2/1. Feels bad. If you manage to draw the card, 2-mana 2/1 draw a card, but more or less like 2 mana, then another 2 mana, I'll give it a 2 out of 5. I'll just give it solid, like Grizzly Bear stats there. I know it's just a 2/1, but just baseline 2 out of 5. Okay, there we are. And in standard, it's not going to see any play. It would have to draw you a card for free, not to pay 2 to even come close. The standard playable. Patchwork Automaton. Hey, there it is. You know, I didn't really want to drag it out. I have no way to potentially do a drum roll right now. Maybe later on I'll get like some kind of a stream deck or just have the button to click and be like, oh, soundboard. It's a 2-mana 1/1 artifact creature construct with ward 2. And whenever you cast an artifact spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Patchwork Automaton. It says cast. The artifact spell can get countered. Doesn't have to resolve. It still gets the bonus. It comes out as early as turn 2, even though it's only a 1/1. It protects itself just because it has ward 2. The turn you play this, your opponent almost certainly cannot deal with it because they have to pay an extra 2 mana to even target it at all. Yeah, that's really strong. and then it just grows and grows, and you can play multiples. It's not legendary, and they can grow and grow, and they can crew things for a little while. Then they can punch your opponent in the face, and they get counters on them, so they actually have modified. They count as a modified creature as well. Oh my goodness, it just goes on. This card is fantastic. This card is amazing. It's just uncommon, and I think this might actually be like a 4 of in just an aggro deck. It doesn't even have to be in like in a red deck. This might make its way into some sort of just mono artifact, probably some colored artifact, sure, but like mono artifact aggro. This card is amazing. If this was legal back when Companions came out and Ikoria, and you had Umori the Collector, there's the potential there for an all artifact deck with like Ginger Brutes and Masquerade Nexus and such. This would definitely have pushed that deck to at least B tier 2. But it wasn't quite there, and I didn't see any play, and then they made the change to the companion rule, and then it really wasn't that worth it. But damn, Patchwork Automaton, best colorless non-land card by a mile, I would say. Reckoner Bankbuster is a 2-mana 4/4 artifact vehicle with crew 3, and when it enters the battlefield, it has 3 charge counters on it, which means it counts as a modified card. If you crew it, it is then a modified creature, as long as it still has the counters on it. You can also pay 2 and tap and remove a charge counter. It doesn't have to be crewed, you can just do that. To draw a card. Then, if there are no charge counters on it, create a treasure token and a 1/1 colorless pilot creature token with this creature crews vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. So, eventually, if you don't have a creature to crew it, this is a perfectly good top deck. You go through 3 turns, I guess. It takes a little while. You manage to spit out a treasure token for your time, and a pilot that can crew the Bankbuster. I guess the thing is, you wait a little while, and then that's your loot, and that's your pilot, and they're making a break for it. Who knows? But really nice card, just to, round out a few things. And the 3 is nice because there are a few of these pilot creatures that can crew for, at least 3, maybe more. So having crew 3 is perfectly fine, I believe. Yeah, but otherwise it doesn't actually do anything else just as a creature. You do want to use that tap ability, which means it's not really an aggressive card exactly. So in limited, it's still great. It's still really, really nice. I'm going to say 3.5 just because card draw and then definite animation is cool. In standard, I'm going to bring it down to a 1.5 because I believe it's really just a 2-mana crew 3/4/4. On an empty board, yeah, I can do a few things. It's not a Maze Mind Tome, but I'll give it a 2. I'll give it a 2 out of 5. I'll give it 2 out of 5. Reto? I'm going to say Rito Sentinel. Is a 3-mana 3/3 artifact creature construct defender. Not too many of those in the set. There's like a couple, but not too many. When it enters the battlefield, target player mills 3 cards. And you can pay 3, put target card from your graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. Interesting. I guess if your opponent's trying to reanimate something you're trying to target, I'm going to bring this back to my hand. Pay 3 and tuck it under there. You can also put a card back in your library if you want to do that for whatever reason. It will go on the bottom. So unless you have a way to shuffle, you're probably not going to see it again, but there's a few cards that say shuffle on them. It's possible. It's kind of just a silly card, though. Honestly, I don't care for it. It doesn't do a whole lot. It's an artifact creature, if that matters. It might, but probably doesn't. There's that one thing that lets creatures, like, attack as though they didn't have defender. I think it's a blue card, but it's whatever it is. It's not too flashy, so this is probably just a 3-mana whatever. 2 out of 5, because it's alright to see that. Maybe milling is good, and maybe the effect comes into play. No, 1.5 out of 5, because it can't attack. That's kind of a huge drawback. Standard, 0 out of 5. Runaway Trashbot is a 3-mana 0/4 with trample. Great. Runaway, and it's a construct artifact creature. This card gets +1/+0 for each artifact and or enchantment card in your graveyard, which is cool. Doesn't work super well with sagas because they exile and come back as creatures, so they don't go to the graveyard immediately when they're done. The creature side has to die first. But let's see, 3-mana 0/4 trample will likely be a 3-mana, I'll say 2/4 or 3/4 unlimited. In standard, you can easily get this up to like a 5 or 6/4 with trample. But I don't know if you're going to be able to do that by turn 3, but maybe play a couple of these and it gets you there. But would you rather just play like a Vorin Collects? No, because it costs twice as much, but the ability... okay. Going back and forth, I have reached my decision. that I believe this is a 2.5 out of 5 in limited, with the potential to go higher with if you have more things, but I don't know, mill yourself and then go for it. Or if your opponent has one of these, then you have this and you start tucking their cards back in their library. I don't know, do your thing. In standard, I will put this at a 2, but in limited, I will put this at a 2.5. Searchlight Companion is a 3-mana 1/1 artifact creature drone. There you go, Thopter Foundry, eat your heart out. It has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you make a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. You know, Sky Scanner has come a long way, and this is not where it wants to be. Okay, so 3-mana 1/1 flyer that makes a 1/1 that's on the ground. Not really a fan. Not really doing a whole lot with this. Like 1 out of 5 in limited. It's alright, I guess. It's not really doing anything for me. So 0 out of 5 in constructed. Shrine Steward is a 5-mana 3/2 artifact creature construct. When this enters the battlefield, you may search a library for an aura or shrine card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. I guess if you're trying to play multiple shrines, maybe, but 5-mana 3/2 is a good way to lose the game because you did a whole lot of nothing for 5 mana. Oh, but at least put the darn shrine onto the battlefield. Unless you have that aura that also kills things. In black, it costs 2 black, enchant a creature, and then some other creature dies. Unless you have that in multiples, I would not play a single one of these. Even if you have the shrines, I wouldn't bother. Maybe this goes into a shrine, like tribal deck and other formats. But not, ugh. Standard is not playable at all. Limited is not playable at all. I will say, jeez. 0 out of 5, both formats. If it costs 4, I could see it, but it doesn't, so no. Surge Hacker Mech. This is one that I thought could potentially be like the #1 colorless card, but then I dialed it back. It's like, you know what? No, the other guy's a lot better, but this one was the runner-up. 4-mana 5/5 artifact vehicle with menace and crew 4. When this enters the battlefield, it does damage equal to twice the number of vehicles you control to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. This cannot go face, but baseline, you pay 4 mana to get this thing, and it deals 2 damage to a creature or something, you know, if it's the only one. If there's one more artifact, so your number of vehicle, it has to be vehicle, okay. If there's more vehicle, then it will deal 4. Another one, if there's, 2 more vehicles, then it will deal 6 and probably kill whatever's there. And is it difficult to get that to happen? No, it's not legendary. You can have multiples of these. It does cost 4 to crew to have a 5/5, so, it's not a huge bonus in damage you're getting, but it does have menace, which makes it much more difficult to, deal with, to block, by definition. And let's see, and it also helps clear the way when it just enters the battlefield, so really solid card there. In limited, super nice. It's a vehicle that also has removal, that also has evasion. Yeah, super good card, 4 out of 5. Certainly, yeah, really nice there. And in standard, it costs quite a bit, but it might be okay. I'm getting a, not Flame Tongue Kavu kind of feel, but almost a little a mini Kavu, which I think they actually came out with in one of the Modern Horizons recently. I forget exactly. It might have been Flame Spitter Kavu. I don't know. But anywho, that's an older card for older people, such as myself. I'm old. I'm having a birthday this year. I know, right? How old am I? But anyway. The card's pretty good. In standard, I'd say 3 to 3.5. The only reason I say that is because crew 4 is expensive, and 4 mana is also expensive to potentially just deal 2 damage and not actually put a creature on the board. That's devastating, but if your deck is functioning properly, then you're good. Thundersteel Colossus, I believe, is the final artifact we're going to be going over. 7 mana, 7/7 artifact vehicle, trample haste, and crew just for 2. I forget what the one is. There's some card that will help you sneak out vehicles and makes it super cheap. But damn, this is a card. I know there's the one that's in black and white that's on a motorbike. I forget what the darn thing's called, but that would work if this is in the graveyard. It comes in the battlefield, and it already has haste, although it gives it haste, and then you just crew it and smack your opponent, and then it goes back to your hand. 7's a lot, but once it's on the board, it's super easy to get going. And crew, the mechanic does make it a little more difficult to remove because it stops being a creature, which means it's largely safe from, a lot of removal and board wipes. And you can top deck almost any creature and crew it immediately again. This card, I think, is great. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 in limited. Even though it costs 7, it's worthy of the cost. I think it's absolutely just a awesome card. I was going to say bomb, but usually bomb means that it's a 5 out of 5 or 4 out of 5. I'm going to give it a 3. 0.5 out of 5. There you go. You got a little more out of me. In standard, I will give it a 2. I think this might see a little bit of play here and there in those vehicle decks, specifically only vehicle decks. But it's a really cool card and I like it. I don't know. It's super simple, but it does what it does so damn well. Oh no, there's more. Oh no, there's so much more. Oh, well, I was mistaken immediately. Okay, 2 hours, here we go. 4 mana, 2/1, Tawashi Guidebot. Artifact creature construct. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Okay, so it immediately can either be a 3/3, not 3/3, 3/2 for 4, feels horrible, or you can give something else a little buff and, you know, make it modified. You can pay 4 and tap this to draw a card. This ability costs 1 less to cast, 1 less to activate, for each modified creature you control. It's nice that you can just do that multiple times, like not in the same turn, but you know, pay 4 and tap, draw a card. Okay, there's a thing to do with this. Even if you have to pay the full 4, at least there's somewhere to put your mana so you can go through your deck a little more in limited and try to find the answers or try to find the more threatening things. If you just put the counter on this thing, it's going to cost 3 to tap it. I think it's reasonable to say you might have, like, when you play this, there might be another modified creature on the board already, so it'll probably only cost 2. 2 and tap to draw a card. You know, that's fine. That's about average, not bad. If you manage to get it down to 1, awesome. If you manage to get it down to 0, then you're doing something right. So with that, I think that aside from the whole cost of 4 there, it'd be really nice. It'd be like a 3. I'm going to make it a 2.5 out of 5, because it costs a lot to play it initially, and you might... It's really easy to kill. Also, it only has 1 toughness, maybe 2 if you give it the counter. So yeah, in limited, like 2.5 out of 5. And in standard, 0. Walking Skyscraper. Yeah, you're big. Is an 8 mana, 8/8 construct. You're down right as a construct. It's a freaking skyscraper. Costs 1 less to cast for each modified creature you control. Okay, I guess the modifications all add up to create the building. 8/8 with trample. And it has hexproof as long as it's untapped. I don't really like that whole thing where, like, if it's not tapped, then it has hexproof, but as soon as you tap it, then it's vulnerable. I imagine it's just supposed to mean, like, either the skyscraper has gotten up and has begun moving, so it could topple over, whereas when it's just stationary, then it is firm and it is resolute. Or maybe it's just like, I attack by falling on you, and, you know, then you can get me, I don't know, whatever. I think this will often cost 6, maybe? I think it's, you know, again, similar to what I was saying in the previous one. I think that it's reasonable to say you might have 2 modified creatures. And the 6 mana 8/8 trample is damn good. Even if you pay 7 for it, it's still damn good. Yeah, 3 out of 5 in limited. Don't be dissuaded by the fact that it costs 8 in limited, and standard almost never gets to that much. I think you could probably get to 6 and, you know, 6 or 7 and not be immediately dead. As long as the rest of your deck functions and is not focused around, I'm going to play the skyscraper and then go from there. In standard, I mean, this could potentially cost 0. That's the dream is that you have all these modified creatures like, well, I play skyscraper for free, hey. But yeah, I think you could reasonably get this down to like 4 though. And that's a damn good thing. 4 mana 8/8 trample, yeah. It reminds me of like Gatebreaker Colossus or whatever the card was called, where or Gatekeeper Colossus, I think it was, which if you played Gates back in Ravnica and it was like, hey, look at this, it's free, more or less, many times. And Gates was a top tier deck for around a week or 2 until people just stopped doing that and they're like, hold on, Nexus of Fate, yeah, that's a card. I don't know if that's exactly how things went, but that's how it went to my mind. That's how it felt. Yeah, card's good. In limited, this I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 5, and in standard I will give this a 2 out of 5. I don't know if the deck that this goes in is actually top tier, but this will be like the boss creature. The whole reason you play modified decks is to get this and a few other cards to really shine. Okay, we're into the lands, which should take no more than a short amount of time. Beseiju, Who Shelters All was a card back then. It helped. It doesn't really do the same thing anymore, but this is what we're referring to when we have our new Beseiju Who Endures. So it's come quite a ways. It's grown quite tall. I mean, I don't really have a great grasp of scale in this picture. There's not a whole lot to really, there's no bananas, so I can't say how tall it really could be. But here's the new Beseiju, and it is towering above the skyscrapers, which I think is a testament to nature. I just love the artwork here. This is actually part of a cycle. There is one for each color of mana, where they are legendary lands that come into play untapped, worth noting, and they just tap, add 1 mana of that color. But they also have channel. The design team kind of tried to stay away from legendary lands because they can often get clogged in your hand, like, well, I can't play this one unless maybe if I want to get 1 more mana out of something, sure. But it feels really bad to not be able to just play a card, right? Just because it's not doing anything. Well, the way they got around that is they gave you the channel ability for these things, where even if it's dead in your hand, as like you can't play it as a land there, you can still discard it to some effect. So, channel for Beseiju is pay 2 and discard it. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land an opponent controls. Well, that sounds fantastic. What's the drawback? That player may search their library for a land card with a basic land type, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. That last line, where it can cost less, is also consistent across the entire cycle. So, a lot of people have said, well, this seems amazing, and then go back to what Assassin's Trophy did. And Assassin's Trophy was very good, but giving your opponent the land is far from free. Not only does it get them a land, it gets them onto the battlefield untapped, but it doesn't have to be a basic land. Now, in Standard right now, it will likely be a basic land, but the Triomes in particular and other formats have all those basic land types, so you can just have that come in, although I do believe they come in tapped by default, so, you know, that would actually come in tapped still. What else can come in? Mystic Sanctuary sees some play in like older formats, Legacy, I think, or maybe is it Banned Legacy? Maybe you see it in Vintage, I don't know. But that card's actually kind of busted, and if you do this to your opponent, they can search it out, because why the hell not? There are other cards, I believe, that have, I mean, any dual lands, any shock lands, not the check lands. So you can't get a, geez, what is it? You cannot get a Glacial Fortress, but you can get a Hallowed Fountain. Yes, there are quite a few things. So again, this ability is far from free. Still an amazing card though to get in Limited, just because if you do it on your opponent's biggest thing, what else are they going to ram into? How do you know if it's their biggest thing? You don't. But if you got to use the removal, you got to do it, you know? And it's also removal that is very, very difficult to stop, because it is a channel ability, it is an activated ability, it is not a spell you're casting. So if they're holding onto a counter spell, being like, oh, I'm going to spell pierce it if they try to kill my big dude, oh no, it's Beseiju, who's indoors, they just threw a giant tree at me, now what do I do? Nothing. I mean, you search for a land, and that's what you do. Yeah. In Limited, this card, I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. I know, I just talked about how it's not great to give your opponent a land, but yeah. And Standard is going to go way down to a 2 because of that. But still, the versatility is pretty damn good. Let's see now. Artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land. Or non-basic land. This doesn't destroy creatures or planeswalkers. That takes back a lot. 1 out of 5 in Standard. Excuse me, I misread. I thought I could destroy almost anything, but nope. Nope. 1 out of 5 in Standard. And I'll still stick with the 3 out of 5 in Limited, because it's going to have plenty of targets, I believe. Okay, for the white card in the cycle, we have Ganjo, Seat of the Empire. I guess this is exploring like 5 areas, or maybe just 5 landmarks in Kamigawa, which I think is pretty cool. So, of course, tap for white. Channel 2 and a white, and discarding it, it deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature, and it can cost less, like we said before. Very common effect to see in white in almost every single set, where it deals 4 damage in particular is a very popular number to an attacking or blocking thing, because, you know, white's all about retribution and justice, so, you know, you strike first and then we do our thing. Yeah, this card's actually really, really good. I will give this a 4.5 out of 5 in Limited, because being able to play this as a land or a removal spell, amazing. Actually, like, really, really, really awesome. Let's see. In Standard, will we want to see this? We're probably not going to channel too often. I don't know how many legendary creatures we're going to see either, but there are plenty of legendary creatures in maybe like a Boros aggro deck that comes kind of low to the ground, and then you attack. I'm going to block. Okay, I use my land to kill it. Hey, you know what? You pay... If you can get away with just 1 mana removal, which is likely, or even like 2, it's awesome. So 3.5 out of 5 in Standard, and 4.5 out of 5 in Limited. Next up, Otawara? going to say Adawara. Soaring City is the blue one. The channel cost is 3 and a blue. To discard, return target artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand. And of course, it can be reduced. So, this card... So, dealing 4 damage doesn't always deal with a threat. If it's really big, then it might be like, well, I need a little more help there. But bouncing something pretty much always gets the job done for some amount of time. And in limited, bouncing a creature or bouncing the threat is often, you know, is like just below actually to hard removing it. So I believe that this card is probably the best of the lands in this set for limited more so. Maybe not as much in standard, but still a pretty damn good card. I think in limited this is absolutely a 5 out of 5. I would take this and I would play blue and maybe pick up some legendaries if you can, but if not, having a more or less free option to bounce something will probably save you more often than it ever hurts you having this card in your hand. Or having this card. And if you gotta play it as a mana source, go ahead. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I don't think it's gonna feel too bad. In standard, maybe a 3 out of 5. I don't think it's gonna go too high because how many legendaries are you gonna play? A couple, maybe, maybe not. I don't know. This gets less value if you go into older formats where Karakas is a thing and legendaries are a vulnerability. But yeah, this card is very nice. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. Yeah, 3 out of 5 and standard, 5 out of 5 limited. Go nuts. So Kenzan, Crucible of Defiance is the red one. And I think we only have the black one left. You can pay 3 and a red to channel it. Make 2 1/1 colorless spirit creature tokens. They gain haste and on a turn. Okay, I would like that ability to cost at least, go down to at least 3, maybe 2. And of course, as we're going to say, 1 is amazing. Yeah, it's okay. Not great. I'm not too excited about it, but it makes 2 of them, so you can use them to crew a vehicle maybe here and there, or just, add a little something. You can equip them with things to have modified creatures. You can just use them to block. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, more like these are all great cards, don't get me wrong. In limited, these are all fantastic cards. because they're lands, and they're also other things, and they're just great. So... in that, I wouldn't go out of my colors if I'm already pretty well set to play these, but not too shabby. So I'll say like 3 out of 5 in limited, and in standard, yeah, it's not terrible. You can probably have some decent legendaries in in an aggressive deck. It's not too uncommon to see. So yeah, standard, I'll say a 3 out of 5 there too. Yeah, good card. And Takenuma, Abandoned Mire, is the black one of the cycle. And you have, what? Channel 3 and a black to mill 3 cards. Then return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to the from your graveyard to your hand, not the battlefield. Oh my goodness. If this could be actual Reanimate, that would be amazing. I'd be all over it. But instead, it is putting it back to your hand. Which is still nice. I like it. The fact that this is, of course, instant speed. Means you could do it at the end of the turn, and hey, that threat that you just killed, or maybe you'd mill an even stronger thing. I'm going to take that and put it into my hand. It's almost like paying something to draw a card. If you hit one of the top 3 cards, yeah. And let's see, return creature or planeswalker. So it can't just be a random artifact or a land. It has to be one of those 2 creature or planeswalker things. Can't be a saga. Might take away from the playability there, but it's still a very strong card. I'm going to say 3.5 out of 5. I like it more than Sokenzan, I don't know how you want to say it. And in standard, it's okay. It's alright. I don't mind too much. I actually might like the milling, in fact. So I'm going to say 3 out of 5 is standard. Okay, here we go. We got through through that cycle. We're almost there, I promise. Mech Hanger was something I thought was really good until I realized that it costs basically 4 mana for lost ability. You can tap it for Colorless. You can also tap it, add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast a pilot or vehicle spell. Pilots is a creature type, so okay. And vehicles, we know, are vehicles. Alright, I don't know if you could reliably have a deck that is just that. It might make its way into an Azorius deck that has, a lot of those in it, but in limited, not too keen on that. You can pay 3 and tap this, which is like paying 4 mana. Target vehicle becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. I would play one of these in a limited deck if I had, any decent number of vehicles and not feel bad about it at all. I'll put this at like a 2.5 out of 5. I think it's alright. it's unfortunate that maybe you're going to get a little mana screwed there. If you're playing more than 2 colors, I wouldn't actually play this at all, because you need your colored mana. But if you're playing 2 or less, I mean, 1 or 2, or I'm hoping you're not playing nothing, there's not a whole lot of Eldrazi in Standard to really pull from, then you could play one of these and not really be hurt by it too often. In Standard, I'll give it a 2 as well. Yeah, 2 out of 5, both ways. Roadside Reliquary. You can tap to add Colorless, or you can pay 2 and sacrifice it to draw a card if you control an artifact, or draw a card if you control an enchantment. So if you have both, you draw 2 cards. Well, pay 2, sack to draw 2 is the dream, obviously. But how often are we going to do that? Not too often, but still, I'll say like 1.5 out of 5 in Limited. It's nice to be able to have something that, you know, has a mana... I'm just gonna say this is like a Mind Stone almost. A mana rock that you can also sacrifice to draw a card. Likely, you know, I think you'll pretty really reasonably have one or the other. It's pretty good. In Standard, it's actually not bad either in Standard, because, yeah, you can probably get both going, and, geez, I'm thinking about, like, Monument, is it Monument? Or Memorial? There was whatever the card was, Scholarly, some blue card, and you could sack it and draw 2 cards back in the day of, you know, Nexus Reclamation nonsense. So, let's see. I think it was Memorial to Genius? Maybe? I don't know. Monument, I think there was another one, like, to Folly that also saw some play. But anyway. Yeah, cards not bad. Very simple. It does what it does. It does it pretty well. 2 out of 5 in Limited, and then maybe like 2.5 out of 5 Standard. Secluded Courtyard. As it enters the battlefield, choose your creature type. You can tap to add Colorless, or tap to add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, or activate an ability of a creature or a creature card of the chosen type. Not really too huge on this. This is not at all, what is that, the cavern, or the one, oh, I forget what it's called. I should have known what it was called. The one where you pick a thing, and then if you use that mana to cast it, it can't get countered. I'm pretty sure it's a cavern. Cavern of Souls. Yeah, this is not Cavern of Souls. Not even close. But it still just makes it easier to cast certain creatures. Okay. I don't even know if I would play this in Standard, honestly. Maybe like a 1 or a 2 of if you're playing multiple colors and this is what you really need to tie the whole thing together. Yeah, I don't know, 3 color samurais, I guess. Probably not a great idea. In Limited, I wouldn't actually play this card. I just would not. Because you gotta pick the creature as it enters the battlefield, so, yeah. I would, unless you're still doing 3 color samurais, 1 out of 5 in Limited, 0 out of 5 Standard. It's just gonna be this one here, because this cycle, the life gain cycle land thing is back in Standard. They have printed all 10 combinations, so all 10 2-color combinations. So this is just a cycle of cards, cycle of lands where enters tapped, and you gain a life, and then it taps for the allied colors. Or actually, not necessarily allied colors, there are also enemy colors, just all the 2-color combinations. All the guilds of Ravnica are represented here, so those are fine. Limited, that's very good mana fixing and mana stuff. If you get the one that you need, then absolutely take it. It's going to be like a 2 to a 3 out of 5, depending on how heavy you are in the other colors. And in Standard, it's not worth anything, because there's better ways to fix your mana. Uncharted Haven. Enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, choose a color, tap, add 1 mana of the chosen color. Standard is useless, Limited, it's cool. Like a 2 out of 5 there. I would probably play this and not feel bad, because it just mana fixes to whatever color you want. You know, only, you have to declare the color when it comes into play, but still. You have that in your opener, I feel okay. And finally, there we go. The last thing I wanted to show you are these full art Kamigawa lands that just really, the artists for them did quite a number. It looks like this artist is, it looks like it says 1201, but it's actually like a name, Izoi or something, I don't know. But I just think the artwork here is amazing. I would be remiss to not bring these up in the full card review. All of these, absolutely 5 out of 5. And there will be regular style lands with, you know, more typical artwork in them, but these will be, I think they said, in about every 3 or 4 packs should have one of these. So although they will be less common, they will not be super rare. It should be easy enough to get them, and they shouldn't be too expensive if you want to, you know, fill a deck full of them. So here's just, we're going to go through. There's the forest looking really nice there. I think they had the same artist do both arts for that certain color. So like the forest artist is the same, and then it's a different person, as you can see, a different style. For the island, I love this and the waterfall and everything back there. This is, I like the circles and the geometry kind of, and look at this. Just take a few moments here and look at these. Mountain, although there's a lot of blue, there's still like a little fiery, which there's a dragon in the background. I just noticed that now, and that's awesome. Oh my goodness. And then I like how they had like a snowy village, and even though it's red and it's a mountain and it's fiery, there's like, you could probably reasonably say that's like a forge back there, and, you know, not feel bad, like a power plant. It just, even though it's snowy, it feels so warm. Okay, plains, not as excited about this one. The artwork's great, I'm just not really getting a plains vibe, even though clearly this is showing plains. It's just a lot of green, but hey, still fantastic. This is great. I love this one. They're all so good. Swamp, now it's nice and dark. It's at night, and you're just like, you know, out in the swamp or like by a river or something, and you have the reeds going on there. It's not even so like dark and gloomy. It's just a really nice nighttime scene. And this one has a lot of red. I'm surprised. But yeah, some lanterns and stuff, you know, nice little motifs. And that, holy smokes, I know I said it'd go for a while, but I didn't realize just quite how many cards there were that I was going to go over and talk about for an extended period of time. To anyone who got through all of this, thank you, and I sincerely apologize. If you managed to go through all the videos as well, you know what, if I met you in person, I'd give you a handshake and maybe even a hug if you're okay with that kind of thing. I don't know, if you want the 6 feet, I respect that too. You know, I can wear a mask, whatever you want, but holy crap. Now I'm going to give my voice a rest by streaming for the next, what time is it here? We're streaming for the next about 3 hours. Maybe even more. But I might be speaking in a more casual voice, because you know what, I gotta present here, and then I'm probably gonna be sounding like this, actually. This is me. Okay. I want to open packs, play with some of these cards, and then take a nap. So, thank you so much. I hope everyone enjoyed the review. Feel free to tell me in the comments what I got right, what I got wrong, what I got... It's just what I got. Tell me what I got. Do I got it? I don't know if I got it. I might not got it. And at the risk of making this very long video longer, good night or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. But as always, good luck.